Good evening, Mid-Michigan First Alert Meteorologist Diane Phillips joining you as we are tracking severe weather here tonight. We are currently under a tornado watch for all of us here in Mid-Michigan, excluding though Roscommon, Ogama, and Iosco counties. But we do also have the severe thunderstorm warning, and we have one cell that's trying to spin here tonight. So we are going to be talking about that for your evening. I know that this is not a great time. It's 10 o'clock. A lot of us, we want to be headed off to bed, but we are still keeping an eye to these storms here. So this is kind of the wide view on our sky tracker, where we do have kind of this cluster of storms that are setting up for us. So we already have warnings that are sitting off towards our west. I am going to quickly hop into those because we are going to be finding that they are blanketing the Grand Rapids area. We're continuing to see them a little bit in towards Gratiot counties and even in closer towards Kent County. Now you'll also see that we do have that red outline here. So that is also signaling that there is that potential tornado threat. So these storms trying to rotate, we've been seeing some interesting cells, and then there is actually a tornado warning in Muskegon and Ottawa counties. So we don't have any here. There's no tornado warnings here in mid-Michigan currently, but we are still keeping an eye on some of the cells that we do have. Now I'm going to be bringing up our velocity tracker here, because what we are watching for just kind of coming in a little bit just west of Gratiot County is just kind of this cluster of storms that's setting up here. So this is closer towards M66 and Evergreen. And at first when this was trying to spin and go, what I was looking at was kind of looked to be a lot of winds that were just kind of falling and kind of crashing down. But what we're seeing now is that this storm is trying to spin and it is trying to rotate a little bit. So that's what we are kind of watching. Now it hasn't had great success. It looks just really kind of broad here, but you'll see kind of that big cluster of wind that's setting up again, crossing along M66. But it is just north of M57. So again, this is out of mid-Michigan, but the warning does come across in towards Gratiot County. So if you are in North Shade or if you are into Sumner, Alma, Ithaca, just kind of keep an eye on this cell because this is going to be headed in your direction. Oh, and it looks like they did do just outside of our area. I'm going to confirm this here before I take that, just because I do believe. Okay, so this is for Montcalm County. So Montcalm County did have that tornado warning issued for that cluster that we were watching. So this does not include Gratiot County. However, it is just one county west. So I would be leery if you are in Gratiot County that this system is going to be headed in your direction. So again, we don't have any tornado warnings here in mid-Michigan. However, we do have tornado warnings towards our west, and we do see an environment that could support some of these storms. So that's why we are hopping here on your live stream tonight. We're going to be watching these as they come across. So again, we do not have any tornado warnings active in mid-Michigan, but they are setting up towards our west. So this is just kind of that cluster along M56 that we are watching. So let me go and get kind of the timing on this cell. So it's moving at about 35 miles per hour. Just so that we can kind of take that into Gratiot County and kind of see. I want to back out a little bit here. We do also have First Alert Chief Meteorologist Chris Eastlick. He's doing our 10 o'clock newscast. I'm in my box here, but just so you can say hi to Chris here tonight.
Hi, everybody. Just did want to point out something really quick because you are trying to get the warning information squared away. Is just for people to know we are kind of in we're transitioning between the Grand Rapids radar and the Detroit radar in this area. And so it will be a little tougher to see here probably pretty soon. I think we're getting a good view on it right now, but there's a very good possibility as we get closer to Gratiot County, it might be a little bit tougher to detect, obviously. So just kind of stick with us. I think we've got a good view on it right now, but I would just take precautions anyway in case it doesn't seem like it's the strongest signature on radar as it kind of goes into that handoff zone between the Detroit radar and Grand Rapids.
Yeah, so thankfully that we do have kind of a good look here now that we can see it, because that is going to continue to head east. So these are just some of the times. Of course, some of these again are into Montcalm County. For folks who are joining, because of course in the digital world we could have folks coming in, Montcalm County is going to be just west of Gratiot County. This is not Macomb County in the Detroit area. This is Montcalm County that tornado warning is there. So just to kind of clear this up, we don't want to have any confusion here during a severe weather situation. But again, I had mentioned Sumner, so about 10:38. So you can see that in about 20-30 minutes from now, we'll be watching that cluster of storms. Newark, we'll be having that around 10:45. Closer towards Alma, we'll see how well it's holding together, considering that would be about 10:55. And then coming into Ithaca, very similar timing there along 127.
So here's the difference, and we'll just keep this up so everybody can see the time. The way it looks on the Detroit radar. Compared to...
So yeah, this is the Detroit radar here.
And then if you look over to the Grand Rapids, you've got kind of two different looks there. And so we'll just see kind of which one is better. So if you notice us flip-flopping between views in the next couple of minutes, that's why.
Yep, we just want to see the Detroit radar, of course, is a little bit further away, so we maybe can't quite get as clean of a look, but it's always kind of good to compare and contrast those two radar scans. So we are going to be watching those. Again, that is not in Gratiot County now, but that tornado warning is active. You're going to be finding that is going to be headed and staying here into Montcalm County for a little while longer. I do want to pull up the timing of that warning, 10:45. So the good news is yes, some of the times that I was saying here for our Gratiot County communities is that we had that coming in around 10:45. So really at this point, we're just hoping that that can fall apart and that we won't then hopefully see that storm to be strong as it comes in. Since we have a little bit of time before that does actually come across our mid-Michigan communities, I am going to kind of show our entire portion of mid-Michigan here. So these are communities that we're watching, and you can see that we do have some storms that are already coming in. So actually in Mount Pleasant, we should start to see some heavy rainfall into there. That camera sometimes is just a little bit dark now here after sunset, but I am going to try to at least pull that up here so we can at least see. Maybe we can get a light show. Or mainly heavy rain. That's also been a big concern here, is that we already have the flood watch. It's already been wet. And so we are seeing that these storms have really been dropping a lot of water in a short period of time. Actually, there was one of the cells in West Michigan. It dropped 1.5 inches in just a short amount of time. So that is why we are seeing that they have some concerns there for some of that flash flooding. So we have the same potential here to have those same problems. So that's why we've been first alerting you about this. That's why we issued that first alert weather day, because we just want you to be weather aware here going into the evening, since this is kind of getting closer towards bedtime. Here's our Mount Pleasant camera, so you can see that we have some lightning on our camera here. It does look wet on campus. It kind of looks like the pavement shining. Again, this camera, as I had mentioned, is kind of dark, maybe not the brightest one in our closet of cameras, but we are still seeing that we do have at least some lightning that we're being able to pick up. So this camera is actually positioned towards the west, but the rainfall is coming in from the south. So that is going to be just kind of something here to keep an eye to. Let me pull this up so that we can kind of zoom in here on this system. So also you can see here, because this is pulling in all of my lightning data, it's pulling in my watches. So let me turn the lightning off so we can kind of concentrate here with what we're seeing. So I am going to pull in on that line that we have. So this line that's just south of Mount Pleasant, and that's actually going to be just clipping in towards Merrill. So that is not warned. So we do still have thunderstorms in it. There was quite a bit of lightning here. I can turn the lightning tracker back on. So there's definitely a cluster of lightning here, but we aren't seeing that that line itself is warned. So that is going to be coming in closer towards Mount Haley and then eventually headed towards Midland. So far we just have seen heavy rainfall with that and quite a bit of lightning. So of course it's 10 o'clock. It's early to mid-April, so there's no reason to kind of be hanging out this late at night. So of course, though, if you are outside for any reason, we do want to encourage you to head indoors as these storms do pass on by. You can also kind of see just south of here that cluster, that storm that we're watching along M66, just south of Stanton. That is the storm that does have the tornado warning on it. So we have been kind of keeping an eye to that. Let's pull up our warnings just to kind of cover and set the stage here with what we have. As I had mentioned, we had that tornado warning in Montcalm County, and then that severe thunderstorm warning does include the western portions of Gratiot County. Now, Ashley is not in there. So kind of the further east you go, you are not in that, but we haven't seen the vorticity and velocity, excuse me, we've been seeing the velocities to be a little bit tighter around that cluster. I do kind of want to back this out here because we will see that we have yet another tornado warning closer towards West Michigan. So this is going to be Muskegon and Ottawa counties, just northwest of the Grand Rapids area. So if you maybe have some family in West Michigan, they are going to be dealing with these storms coming in currently. I'll actually bring up our pinpoint Doppler here. So they've been kind of working with, I want to slow it down because you see that cell that we have here just north of Holland. So that has started to collide with this, and that's why we have the tornado warning here, is because typically when cells try to come together, they don't always get along. So as we kind of move this forward, you can see as those two clusters kind of come together, even here you can really kind of see some of that turning, trying to get kind of a notch going. So that's kind of what we're watching around the Allendale area. So if you know somebody around there, make sure to check in with them that they are in their safe spot, that they are sheltering under that tornado warning. So that's what is setting up towards our west. That's what they are working through. Of course, we're keeping our eyes west. We want to see what's going to happen here and how these storms develop, how long they last. So this is just kind of what we're watching here for tonight is, again, keeping our eyes westward. You'll kind of see that this cell closer towards Santon that I was watching, that we do have that tornado warning, kind of has a similar kind of hook feature to it. So you can kind of see that's trying to, wrong tool there, sorry about that. We don't want to go that far in. So kind of bringing this out here, slow but sure. We're just actually going to go and just go right back to mid-Michigan. It's a little bit easier with that system trying to come through since the scroller is a little bit slower on this computer. But again, as we've been watching that cell there, we are going to see that it is trying to hook and come around. So again, that is still in Montcalm County. You can see it's past M66. So we're going to be watching to see how well that's doing. So let's actually hop on the velocities here. So it is still trying to rotate, it is trying to spin. And let me see if we have any reports on that one. It doesn't look like it. So I have nothing to confirm that that's on the ground by any means. So that's just something that they are watching. I'm just reading some notes here from the National Weather Service in Detroit. Just watching some of the cells that we're watching. So we're very much in step here with the National Weather Service folks in Grand Rapids and Detroit. We're all just kind of seeing the same things as we're all working together here tonight. So we're just going to continue to kind of keep an eye on those conditions. But as Chris had mentioned, we're going to kind of be going back and forth here between the Detroit radar and the Grand Rapids radar. So this is the Detroit radar. Again, still trying to bring that cluster a little bit closer towards Evergreen. And then we can still see that we do have on the Grand Rapids radar a little bit more definition or shape. And Chris, we're in our 10 o'clock newscast, so we're glad to have you back, but I know that you're running back and forth.
Yep, so I have let our production crew know that just kind of be ready at a moment's notice. So if you're watching us from Gratiot County, we do want you to just be ready. I would start thinking, if you're in Gratiot County, what to do, especially on the west side of this county, just to make sure you've got your plan ready, you know where to go. Or if you've got pets, you've got the dog outside going to the bathroom before going in for the night. Make sure that you're doing that before the storm is approaching. If you've got the cat under the bed or anything like that, it sounds silly, but those are the decisions you can make now. That way you're not rushing if you have to do that, or if the kids are sleeping, just kind of be prepared to go get them and get into the basement at a moment's notice. I think, Diane, I heard you saying that you had no confirmation that this is on the ground. I do not either. It is obviously going to be tougher to confirm that as we go into the nighttime hours. And like Diane had mentioned, we are going to be going into that handoff zone between the Grand Rapids radar and the Detroit radar. So the reason we're telling you that is mostly because we know sometimes it can be confusing when we jump around on images a little bit. So if you notice, we're kind of changing through things pretty quickly. We're just trying to get the best view possible for you, and just to make sure that we can be as specific as possible. So this is kind of basically everything that is playing out right now. Is one of the reasons that we issued that first alert weather day for today. The tornado watch was issued, right before our live stream at 9.
Yep.
So I would say that was about 8:50, 8:55, somewhere in there. And a couple of people have asked, you guys have said, damaging wind seems like the primary threat as we've gone throughout today. Why are we getting a tornado watch? There could be a variety of reasons. We've been reading some of our discussions from our forecast partners at the Weather Service as we've gone throughout the day today. And even we call it a Mesoscale discussion, which is a short-term forecast sort of before a watch is issued. Even then, it was saying there was a little uncertainty as far as the tornado development just because of the linear storm mode, which is what we've been talking about today. So I wouldn't necessarily say we were expecting the tornado watch. That doesn't mean that we weren't expecting the possibility of tornado warnings tonight. But I know that has probably caused a little bit of confusion. Why are we getting this watch? It could just be, hey, tornadoes are possible and we want the highest level of awareness tonight. So try not to overthink it. We'll be watching for everything. But just remember, if you're a little nervous with us tonight, that the odds of a tornado happening on your street are very low. Of course, we want you to be prepared. But just if that helps the anxiety a little bit, when it comes to thinking about those things, because I know that word is not easy for some to deal with.
Yes, and I do also kind of want to go through and clear up some of the comments here. April had asked if there were any tornado warnings in Midland, and there are not currently. We only have the watch for Midland County. And just a reminder that the watch means that the ingredients are there. And I do anticipate that the Tri-Cities, the Great Lakes Bay region, just with kind of the projection of the storms that we have now, are going to be kind of in line with that. So we'll be watching that because it is going to be headed in that northeasterly direction. So again, we don't have any tornado warnings here in mid-Michigan, but you can see here our counties and our communities that are under this watch. Because I know that there's a lot of questions as far as who's under a watch, who's under a warning. So this is kind of the breakdown of who is seeing what here. I know a lot of you are asking, what about my town? So we can kind of hop into the forecast here. Let's at least look at kind of a wide scope on the Doppler radar.
Well, you're pulling that up. One observation that I have made based on kind of where some of these stronger storms are right now is they're kind of right in that enhanced zone. And so where that enhanced risk is, where Gratiot County, Shiawassee County, this is where we're getting these warnings. This is where we're getting that spin in the atmosphere. And so I think with that northeasterly motion that you were kind of talking about, we've been watching some of the conditions ahead of time, and even the Detroit Weather Service discussion that we were reading before all of this happened is, there is some question as to how well they'll hold together the farther east and northeast they go. And that actually seems to follow that enhanced versus slight, where it moves off to the northeast into the slight risk area. So I don't want you to let your guard down. It's just, I think so far things are playing out in the enhanced zone like you would expect.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Chris, because I'm going to share my screen here. So this is our mesoscale analysis. So just kind of what Chris was talking about when we had the discussion.
Smaller scale features.
Yes, great example. And we do have these red lines that are coming through. So basically the red lines are measuring our storm energy. So we are finding that our better energy is sitting along 127 and then westward into West Michigan. So we do still have an environment. We had sunshine today. We had a lot of moisture. You probably felt at least a little bit of humidity out there. And we had the heat. So we are kind of checking the boxes on kind of the storm ingredients that we need for this. So one thing though, because again, as Chris had mentioned, kind of that T word gets a lot of us anxious, especially here around bedtime. So we are going to be seeing that we do have our better ingredients across the western portion and central portions of the state. So kind of the further east, it is going to run out of some storm energy. I still think here locally we do have the chance of seeing some stronger storms. But another thing to also kind of keep in mind is that there can be what we call some capping. So it just kind of hits some warmer air. And as these storms try to grow, because that's how thunderstorms work, they're kind of growing and bubbling up. And then we run into kind of that warmer air and then they kind of stall out. So we'll be seeing how well that these hold together and how those are going to be lasting as this continues to move eastward. So back to our pinpoint Doppler. So this is going to be kind of the latest look at radar. And you can see it's also picking up on some moisture out ahead of this storm too. So this is going to continue to move eastward. I do want to also bring back our camera in Mount Pleasant because we should have that heavy rainfall coming through here. So you can see that here. And so that is still putting on a little bit of a light show, not nearly as strong as when we first pulled this camera up, but definitely seeing some water there on the pavement. Also just looking at our pinpoint Doppler, just kind of analyzing how some of these storms are looking. You can see that they are across Gratiot, Isabella counties, and now coming in towards Midland County. I'm even starting to hear some rain in Saginaw, so I know a lot of you have been saying, hey, how does Midland look? How does Saginaw look? So right now we are seeing that rainfall come into the Tri-Cities. We do not have any warnings currently for that. But we are going to still have some thunder. We will have lightning. Let me turn on our lightning tracker. So there are very small lightning bolts, but that's not in reality. So again, make sure everybody's inside, as Chris had mentioned, kind of bring in our pets indoors too with all of the lightning strikes that we do have.
I will take a look at the radar here. If you want to pull up the latest mesoscale discussion, because that is noteworthy for us to share. One of those short-term forecasts came out again, and what the Storm Prediction Center does with these is they assess sort of the live ingredients here, and so we'll pull this up on our full screen here in a minute, but what it's doing is it's highlighted an area basically where we're getting these areas of spin right now, and it's showing that we have potentially a greater tornado threat if some of these cells that are south of the warm front, southwest of the warm front, intensify. So we might be able to, we're in Chrome right now, is that what we're in? Yeah. Maybe we can zoom in the settings to pull that up. There we go, beautiful. So this is what that says, and I'm trying to just get a gauge of the picture there. It looks like it cuts into just that small southwest section of Gratiot County. And so what this is telling us is sort of these cells that initially are forming out ahead of everything else. These are the ones that have the better chance to rotate. And so with time, that has been kind of an expectation that I wrote about in our weather article earlier. I wrote about it in a post on social media, is if there's any cells that develop sort of in the beginning, which is what we're seeing in West Michigan, what we're seeing kind of right up to Gratiot County there, is these cells are forming sort of out ahead of it. And then with time, it is possible that as this grows into a bigger line, that this might become more of a straight line wind threat. Now, that does not mean that we can not focus on the potential for any rotation, because tonight is one of those nights where we could have these little notches of rotation all along that squall line, which is kind of what we're seeing here. It's not the cleanest supercell environment. Usually we look for storms that are kind of out on their own, but this one is still towards the front of the pack. And so even if the forecast does start to shift more to that squall line formation where we get the straight line winds, a good example of that is if anybody remembers last year, the St. Charles night, if you were watching our coverage, or where we had Atlas Township in Lapeer, is we had all of these little tiny areas of rotation. And it was like playing whack-a-mole, where Diane would find one, then Matthew would find one, then Stone would find one, and we just had to keep doing that for hours at a time. That doesn't necessarily mean tonight we'll see that with the frequency, that we did that night, but it's also, we could get these little rotation notches along that line, so we're going to have to be extra vigilant as we work through the next couple of hours.
And I just wanted to bring that cell back up that we've been watching through Montcalm County. It is still under the tornado warning for another about 15 minutes. It is going to be headed very close here towards Sumner, and I can see some of you in the comments are saying that you have some pea-sized hail in Sumner. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that report. That you can kind of let us know. I do want you headed inside. I know it's a lot of people like to watch the weather, but just with that system setting up towards Crystal, I do want you to kind of keep an eye to that. So if you are in Sumner or Newark, make sure that you are going to be headed to your designated safe area. Just even though we don't have a tornado warning that's continuing, considering the National Weather Service does still have a little bit of time to decide what they want to do for Gratiot County and the cell coming in, it's not the best rotation, but it is still rotating nonetheless. So that's why I just would rather be on the side of caution with this one, just because it's not maybe the tightest, but it is still warned right now, and it is still something that we need to be conscious of. So I am going to kind of just draw that line because I have this on the Grand Rapids radar. So this is kind of the winds that are coming in, and then these are the winds that are coming out. So of course those are not going in the same direction. So it's still quite broad because I would like to see typically these to be a little bit closer together for us to be confident that there is anything happening there. I am going to look on another radar kind of behind the scenes just to see, and just so you can kind of also see what I have. You can see that it's picking up on a little bit of hail there closer towards Sumner. So this is kind of our debris tracker, which can also pick up hail, but there's nothing really showing that anything's touching the ground here. So I'm not too concerned that anything has touched down. Also just looking at some of our winds, there's not a strong signal here that made me think that we have anything that's happened. Again, this is just west of Gratiot County, so we are going to be watching this closely to see what they decide as that cell is going to continue to move towards the east. But again, if you are in Sumner, Newark, Perrington, even Carson City, definitely Carson City if you're joining us, North Shade, Fulton Township, I watch this very closely. It is going to be headed closer towards Sumner. So that is going to try to head towards that northeast direction, but still I'd rather be on the side of caution here, just with still seeing quite a bit of wind within it. So that is just something to kind of keep an eye to. I want to check in with the National Weather Service to see if they have any updates for us on this one. It looks like we had some folks in Montcalm County also report closer towards Crystal some penny-size hail. So as we had Sarah share that she had some pea-size hail there in Sumner, we are also getting other reports, and not that we doubt it, but you're just not alone. So we are working with some hail in that system. Let me see if I can bring up some of our kind of hail products to at least see some height here. So it did kind of pick up on the height, so it's going to be easier to tap into some colder air to at least get some hail going. And it had a good hail core in it, but you can definitely see that it did start to die out coming in towards Sumner. So we still have that cluster just north, so that's why hopefully it just stays on the pea size or even just kind of right around penny size, as they had mentioned in some of the other reports. So there is a little bit of hail there, but just looking to see kind of what they've decided here. They are continuing that severe thunderstorm warning for Gratiot County. So this is kind of the first thing that we have here in mid-Michigan to kind of keep an eye to on these cells. So these are still active for us, but we are going to continue to see that we do have rainfall through a large portion of mid-Michigan. So zooming out here, we still have that cluster of rain. If you're in Bay City and maybe had the windows open, make sure that those are closed up here because we're going to continue to pick up that water. This has kind of been that line that's going to be rolling into Midland. So this is actually going to be closer towards Business 10 into Midland and actually coming across US 10. Let me see if I can bring that camera up and catch anything on there because that's going to be Southern Bay County. So let me see. So this is our camera again, a little bit dark here, maybe not able to get a great look. Woo, got some lightning on there. This is also pointed towards the northwest. So this is gonna kind of bring the storm behind us, but plenty of lightning strikes. We've definitely been seeing that with the lightning tracker. So we'll just kind of sit on this camera here for a little bit. If you are in Southern Bay County, we do not have any warnings for you. We do still have the watch, but we do not have any warnings. So as that line comes through and you're getting quite the light show, you're probably hearing some rumbles of thunder. We are not seeing anything that is reaching that severe level. So you do just have some of that rain that's coming in out ahead of it. So that is actually just kind of moving past Freeland, coming in towards Auburn. So that rain's going to continue to head through Midland. It's just knocking on the door. We've already had steady rain in Stanford, but we'll just kind of have that wall, that push of some rain. And then Beaver, Linwood, Coquitlam, Bay City, that rainfall is going to be headed in your direction. Now, if you're in Saginaw, you just picked up on some rain, but a lot of that has pushed out, so you're just now picking up on some lighter rain. So that's kind of the look at the Tri-Cities. Now, if you are joining us towards Flint, I actually don't have too much rain activity here, maybe just some lighter rain on radar. So far so good here into Genesee County and Shiawassee counties, but I would still, because you have a good environment, kind of keep an eye to these conditions. I am going to pull our pinpoint Doppler back up because we do see that we have these storms that are kind of just sitting here a little bit north of Lansing. And so these could continue to trail further south and just kind of clip Shiawassee County. This is also still where we have an okay environment for storms. So that's why I'm just kind of watching the progression north and east with this, but also what maybe continues to try to grow, because we were looking at our warm front, and I'll bring up here. Not that. I wanted to show something different, and it says that it's unavailable right now. So I guess we will not be showing that, but I did want to talk about the warm front, and maybe this can kind of give us a taste instead. I was just trying to bring up the station plots at the airports, but the website was not allowing us to look at that tonight. So we still see that we have a temperature of 72 degrees here in Owasso. We have 69 in Flint, 63 in Saginaw, 67 now in Mount Pleasant after that rain's come through. So you will see that we just kind of have better conditions that are sitting into the 60s. So those that environment, as I was talking about, kind of here through west and central Michigan is where we do see better ingredients for storms. But we are finding that that storm energy is necessary. So that's why I'm still watching out here into Shiawassee County. We haven't seen too much rain yet, but we can have this system kind of build for us. So just kind of watching those conditions. Now also for the folks that are in Gratiot County, I still do not have an update. They still have the severe thunderstorm warning, which I'm okay with. And that system, I am glad to see, it was trying to rotate, and it is starting to break apart a little bit and weaken. So that's some good news for folks in Sumner, Newark, north of Carson City. I still am not giving you the all clear. That tornado warning actually in Montcalm County still goes here for a few more minutes. It goes till 10:45, so for about 4 minutes. But actually also talking about timing, I do want to just give everybody kind of that reminder here for the season, since this is kind of our first big taste of severe weather. Is that here on streaming services, whether you're watching us on Roku, Fire Stick, Android, Apple Television, whether you're on WNEM.com, the TV5 News app, just know that there is a delay. The delay is a little bit longer at WNEM.com and on the TV5 News app. So if you are watching on those platforms, you will have a delay of about a minute or 2 minutes. So if that If that's where you are watching us, just note that when we say potentially some road names or some locations or some timing, that you're already going to be a little bit delayed. So just kind of that reminder here through the season that in the streaming world, there is that delay. So just some housekeeping notes for us. I do want to talk about what that system is doing and check back in here for Sumner and where we had that cluster going. And you can actually see here that we start with this like bright, vivid green, and we have the reds that are trying to cut in. And then you see here around Crystal that it's a little bit darker green. So it is starting to fall apart. It's not nearly as strong or even put together. So we are seeing this weaken. I anticipate in the next couple of minutes at 10:45 that they will let that warning, that tornado warning expire in Montcalm County. I anticipate that they will still keep the severe thunderstorm warning for Gratiot County. Let me get the time on that one because that is still going to be active for us. And they have updated it. So that's going to go till 11 o'clock. And so I anticipate that severe thunderstorm warning for Gratiot County is going to hold. So that is going to be active again for the next 15 minutes. That does have a tag when you read through all the language on the warning. It says at the bottom, it says tornado possible. So we do still have that tag that we have that tornado possibility. And so we are going to find that we still have the ingredients to where we can have that happen. Now I am watching here just north of Sumner, this little kind of cluster that's trying to come together. You can just see it here in Sumner. So if you're there, head inside, head to your safe spot, bathrooms, basements. That's just a little bit too close of a signal for my liking to see, even though it's not warned. I'd rather just be on the side of caution. I don't see any debris with that, but I still am a little suspicious here in towards eastern portions of Sumner. So just kind of watching this cluster here, I'm not even sure. We do have some roads that are programmed in just to kind of pull those up. So St. Charles Road is one of them, and then Osborne Road, Warner Road. I would just kind of be in your safe spot right now because that little cluster there has me a little bit nervous on what could actually be at the ground level. Again, I haven't seen anything at the ground level. If something did try to go, it would have been very weak and very short-lived because I don't see on the latest scans it to be nearly as exciting, but that really picked up because you can see, I'm actually just going to take you back a little bit. So it literally just pops up. Here we are at 10:38, 10:39. Okay, they did just cancel the tornado warning for Montcalm County. But then at 10:40, we get our next scan that comes in, and that just kind of brings it there on the eastern side of Sumner. And then
I noticed that as well.
And I did see just a little speck on spectrum width, and there was no real sign on correlation coefficient for it, but it popped up so quickly to where I'm just a little nervous that we may start to get some reports potentially.
And that's what we were talking about earlier, is there's the potential tonight where things could pop up very quickly, especially with some of these cells that are at the beginning. So I noticed that too, so we're going to keep a close eye on that. Our directors are ready to go at a moment's notice for us. I do think it's a good sign that that wasn't extended into Gratiot County initially, but we'll see if that continues. I also noticed there was a tornado warning in northwest lower Michigan, so even getting a little spin up in the Gaylord National Weather Service office. It's not close to the TV5 viewing area, but I just thought that was interesting for tonight, that we've got a tornado warning that's in northwest lower Michigan also.
Yeah, so that would be actually north of the Cadillac area. I just kind of want to keep an eye on Sumner.
I think we need to.
And just kind of hold out here. I know that we had a couple of folks in the chat, so I hope that you are inside. But I do want to see, because Sarah, you had said, I'm in that target area in Sumner, and it is wicked. It feels like it's starting to lighten up a little bit. So thank you, Sarah, for kind of giving us an idea.
Okay,
So
Polk off Warner. So that's kind of where
it's at. So Sarah, as much as we would like to have more reports from you, your safety is the number one thing that we want for you. So just kind of stay inside, ride this out here, of course, with a little bit of a delay. Definitely want people on Warner Road, Polk, Tyler, even Reed Road kind of getting out there in the distance. That's where we can still see some of those coming in. Oh, we have Diana. She's off Van Buren and Warner. So let me kind of see how those are lining up.
So it looks like that has kind of lost itself.
Oh, good. Thank you.
It's like if you look towards Washington Road, like you've still got some of those colors close together, but I wouldn't call it impressive or anything like that. So that's a good sign. The fact that that little area didn't intensify, we like that.
Yeah, to just kind of turn the roads off here to just kind of see. That was a very quick spin up. So if you are in Sumner, though you did not have that tornado warning, that area is still a little bit suspicious. So if you do here in the next couple of minutes, I would still hold tight. I would not head out of your safe zone until 11 o'clock. Just to be on the safe side, because there's still a lot of clusters that are trying to spin even towards Crystal. So that's why it's just kind of better to hold steady here. And then we can kind of go and assess any damage if there is any. So of course, also just another reminder, watch out for any downed power lines, tree branches. It's dark, it's hard to see what's out here. So be cautious when you're going to go and look and survey some of potentially any storm damage that you may have. Just looking here at the pinpoint Doppler, we'll just bring that back up. So of course this is still showing a lot of
heavy rain.
Yes, and so that's going to be headed. The buckets of rain are soon going to be headed towards Alma. We've headed towards Elwell. And then Ithaca, we're going to have that, Eugene. So a good portion of Gratiot County, you're going to be seeing those soggy conditions here. Thankfully, we don't have any continued tornado warnings there. So let's actually just look at some of our warnings.
And we've been focused on the rotation. So forgive me if you've brought this up, Diane. I just noticed that this severe thunderstorm warning, they have also highlighted a hail threat of 1.5 inches. So we're a little bit higher than our standard severe thunderstorm warning for hail in this warning that is going through Gratiot.
Okay, I did not mention that. We talked a little bit when we did just kind of in Sumner, we had that cluster come through, and then it started to kind of die out, and then the velocities picked up, so we kind of moved closer towards that, but it has kind of resurged there on the south side. That
part kind of slips by me because I was just making sure we were ready to go if we needed to go for the tornado warning. But 1.5 inches hail was associated with that warning.
Yeah, so you can see that that has actually kind of the energy that we had from the Sumner system kind of picked up with the cell that we had coming in further south. So around Newark, Eugene, that's where we're probably picking up on some reports of some hail currently. We have a couple of folks saying, does Alma have a warning? So currently Alma does not have a tornado warning, but there is a severe thunderstorm warning for Alma, so that is going to last until 11 o'clock. So that is just something to be mindful of, because Landon was asking that. I'm kind of going here through some of the comments. We do not have any active warnings in Bay City currently. We just have the tornado watch there. So Tanya, thank you for asking. Brittany was asking on Alma. We have the heavy rainfall. Same for Ithaca, because Matt's asking on Ithaca. So thank you, everybody in Gratiot County, for joining us tonight to kind of watch it. This is our hail cluster, so you can see that is actually going a little bit north. Let me update the view here. Of course. We are going to see that that is headed towards Alma. So at this point, just with that, hopefully you were already parked inside the garage, because that cluster is going to be picked up and kind of rolling in there. So again, Some folks are probably looking for the all clear. And so far, it's just too early here to give really anybody an all clear on how the night is going to be looking. I am going to back us out.
Looks like another warning, not for us, but another tornado warning for Kent County.
Okay, so as Chris was mentioning, Kent County, so which is around the Grand Rapids area where we see kind of that cluster, a lot of those reds there. So they have a tornado warning there in the Grand Rapids area, and then they have the severe thunderstorm warning in Ionia County. So again, in the digital world, of course, we are going to be focusing on our mid-Michigan communities, but we know you have family all over the state. And so we do kind of keep an eye further west. These are the storms that could be rolling in for us. Another thing while I'm kind of zoomed out here is you can see the direction of these storms. So these are kind of the cluster of storms that we have here throughout Gratiot County is going to continue to head north and east towards the Tri-Cities. And then we have this line here from Grand Rapids, and then this is just kind of coming in where we were watching here in Montcalm County. So this line is going to continue to head further south and east. So we kind of have two different directions that everything's going, but this line is where it's going to be a little bit tricky because you can have some rotation that just kind of pops and sits there. And so that can just be very sneaky and hidden in the line. And then we also, of course, have a lot of heavy rainfall. There's the lightning in there. And then as we were seeing, just kind of some of those hail spikes that were popping up on radar, those have just kind of, though they might settle down with one cell, they try to pick up with another. So we are still watching the rainfall here throughout Gratiot County, kind of sitting that heavy rain right along 127. So hopefully nobody's driving through there because we are going to have definitely some ponding on roadways. So we just want to be cautious for folks on hydroplaning. Also, while I'm zoomed out, I do just want to cover folks into the thumb and here into Flint as well, just because here throughout Genesee County, we don't have any showers or thunderstorms right now. You are under the tornado watch, but I don't have any wet weather or anything active for you. And coming in here towards the thumb, we also are finding that we don't have any warnings here. So we do have still the tornado watch for Tuscola, Sanilac, and Huron counties. And we have some storms that are building right along the shoreline. We'll have to see how well it plays with the water. I always am a little leery how the Great Lakes like to play with thunderstorms. So we are starting to see those right there across the shoreline of Tuscola County. So Quanticosi is definitely going to be right along there picking up on some of that rain as that cell starts to take off. Let me turn on the lightning tracker because there is some lightning in that cell. Again, the settings a little bit small on the size, so we'll bump that up here. So we are seeing that we are picking up on that line. So there's plenty of thunder and lightning with that first line that's coming through Tuscola County, the Tri-Cities, and then even further west. So we're just going to kind of be watching this pivot point here into Gratiot County and Shiawassee County because those are going to be some spots that we need to watch for. I also want to just kind of, for folks that are coming in, here's a look at our warnings that we have. And kind of earlier what Chris had mentioned that they do have that tornado warning just south of Traverse City, kind of between Traverse City and Cadillac. So a very sneaky cell with that. The folks in the Gaylord National Weather Service office issuing that. So that is not in mid-Michigan. If you're in Roscommon County, though, just kind of keep an eye to it because that is just off towards our west, and that's just what we have to continue to watch here.
All right, so they did just issue another one just west of Gratiot.
Okay, so yes, we do have that.
So I was watching this one, and it just started. In my opinion, at least the last time I looked at it, we could have gotten another scan since. Okay, so it looks more intense on the Detroit radar. Oh, that looks pretty good.
It does look a lot better on the Detroit radar.
But it does. This one looks
yep.
probably better on the Grand Rapids one. Okay, that is a confirmed.
Oh, is it? Okay, hold on.
That is not for. I should say that is not for us. That is not for. But that purple usually pops up when we've got. usually that's when we've got something confirmed. So I'm surprised that's popping up purple.
It is saying radar confirmed tornado, so I
Okay,
wonder if
so-
they're seeing enough.
Yes, there is a debris ball.
Okay.
So what we will do is I will go out because our 11 o'clock newscast is going to start. So Diane will be here covering us on the stream. But for those of you who are joining, that purple box indicates that we have a tornado that has been confirmed by the National Weather Service office in Grand Rapids. And Diane, if you want to show the circulation, let's pause that right there just to the southeast of Bushnell, where that really bright shade of red is, close to that area of green. And then if you look over on the CC, which is our correlation coefficient for Grand Rapids, there is a clearly defined what appears to be debris ball where that circulation is. And so that means, again, this is out of the TV5 viewing area. We know some of you are watching from other parts of Michigan. So if you are in this tornado warning in Montcalm County, I've got my IFB in, so that's why I'm getting some feedback. I'm sorry. There is a tornado on the ground just west of Gratiot County. So I know our directors are probably hearing us up there. Stand by at a moment's notice, not in, I would say, the next 2 minutes or anything like that. But we'll need to keep a close eye on this one. So I'm going to head out to our studio, and we'll adjust as needed.
I am going to, because this cell is moving at about 20 miles per hour. So I do want to kind of back this out just a little bit. I am going to leave it on the debris because that is going to give us just a little look here. So bringing this out, so this is going to be west of Bloomer. So again, this is Montcalm County. This is not in Gratiot County, but we have seen this being detected. So this is kind of moving into this direction. So I'm just going to at least take that cell. So around the Carson City area at 11:15 tonight, North Shade at 11:30, Sefton 11:30 as well. And the New Haven Church of the Brethren around 11:30, and then Fulton Public Schools around 11:35. So if this cell can survive, which again, it has been confirmed on the ground, radar confirmed, we are just going to watch to see if this can hold on here. Again, this is not in mid-Michigan, but if you are in Gratiot County, I would definitely be keeping an eye to this cluster of storms because this is just some of the future times we can have. Again, it's moving at about 20 miles per hour. So this is kind of the direction. If the storm continues to move 20 miles per hour closer towards the power plant, it's picking up on that. So that would be closer towards 11:17 p.m. tonight. So again, that this is not in Gratiot County yet, but we are watching because this is going to be setting up towards our west. So even in some of our latest paletted looks, I would anticipate that that is still here. When we look at that debris ball, it is still there closer towards Bloomer now. If you're in North Shade, though, I do want you in your safe zones. Just with that being further west and still throwing debris, I want everybody in the southwest corner of Gratiot County. So if you're in the New Haven Center zone, if you are south and west of Ithaca, and if you are west of 127, if you're right along M57, we need you in your basement now. I understand that you don't have a tornado warning, but getting there ahead of time is just going to be the safest thing. So let's talk about, though, where to go since we are asking you to head in those zones. I understand not everybody has a basement. So kind of the main goal here is to find a spot that you are away from windows, doors. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside world just because of flying debris. So typically you have an interior bathroom, maybe it's a half bath. You want to head there. Maybe you have a walk-in pantry in the kitchen. That might not be a bad spot to put a lot of walls between you and outside. Maybe you have a closet that is okay. Maybe even some stairs kind of leading down towards a basement or a hallway. You just want to head to the most centrally located portion of your home. Now, maybe you're in an apartment or a condo, you want to head to the lowest level and you want to be in the most interior portion of those buildings. So that is going to be where you're going. If you don't have a basement, of course, if you do have a basement, that is the best place to go. So that is where we want you headed again. If you are in Gratiot County, okay, so we did just get the tornado warning for Gratiot County. So I am going to go and help Chris. I am going to bring up our studio feed here. I want to make sure I have you lined up. So this is going to be our studio feed. So Chris and I are going to head over there. Chris is already in there.
The one for Gratiot County, and this is
And
the southern
hopefully
end
you should hear
of Gratiot County.
him
So
and
it
myself
does not
right now
include
talking.
the entire county,
But again,
this
this is
going to include
meteorologist
places like
Diane
Ashley,
Phillips. I am going to head
and
into the
this is
studio.
also going to
Here is our
include,
studio
or not
feed. You
include
can
areas
connect with
like
Chris and I
Ithaca.
there. Make
And
sure you
so
stay
if
with
you're
us
on the
again. If
northern
you are
side
in
of Gratiot
Gratiot
you're
County,
okay, but
the
that
southern
purple box
half,
that
make
you
sure
see
you are headed
just
to
the
your safe
west,
spot.
This purple box that you can see right here, this is where we've got the warning with a confirmed tornado on the ground, not necessarily by sight, but it has been confirmed by radar. So what I will do is I will show you the circulation for that, and I will show you that we can clearly see what appears to be a debris ball in that area. So we will take a look at that right here. And this is just to the south of Bloomer. And watch when I pause this. Look to the south of Bloomer where that bright shade of red is with almost that orangish color mixing in. If I flip over to our debris tracker, you can clearly see in this area right here, and Diane's getting ready to join us in the studio. We're going to go into continuous coverage here. This area right here, just south of Bloomer, is where we have that tornado on the ground. So what Gratiot County is now doing is seeing the continuation of that warning into Gratiot County to try to get ahead of it. So if you are right along M57, if you are along M57 or just to the south of M57, Fulton Township, you are included in that. Areas like Ashley, you are included in that as this storm moves off to the east. And so we'll try to zoom in. We will start to get street level forecasting here once we start to see this get a little bit further into Gratiot County. So since this is technically outside of our area, we don't have the streets, but if you're along Roosevelt Road, if you're along Ferris Road and some of the areas that intersect Roosevelt Road, if you are not in your safe place right now, you need to be very soon. Not just because we're seeing an area of rotation, we are seeing what appears to be a confirmed tornado on the ground, confirmed by a debris signature that is right along with that signature of rotation. So Diane, you have been tracking this. If your microphone is on, let's see, she is good to go. Our director says, Diane, you've been tracking this within the last couple of minutes at our streaming desk. Is there anything you have noticed here while we were getting ready for our 11 o'clock?
Mainly that the debris ball had still been hanging around. The other thing is that it kind of broke apart a little bit just south of Carson City, and then it quickly took off and came into Gratiot County. And I'm glad that the National Weather Service did not hesitate to extend that warning. We were actually talking on our stream for folks in southern Gratiot County where to go during severe weather so that you knew where to head, and then we got the warning. So we were glad that we could be on there. But we started kind of with one cluster, and we'll kind of zoom out here.
I will say it does look like that debris ball is kind of losing some intensity. So that might be a good sign that this could be very brief. I still think, because that warning is in place, that you need to be in your safe place. But that goes from that image right here. So Diane, if you want to keep that right there, just southwest of M57. This area right here was where in Montcalm County we had that original tornado warning issued. But if you go forward in time, as you go to near Bloomer and even with the latest scan just into Gratiot County or very close, it's still there. We still want you to be getting into your safe place right now. However, it doesn't look as defined as it did to the west. So what you could be seeing, emphasis on could, is that maybe you're still getting those objects being blown around, but the circulation itself may be starting to weaken a little bit. That's only a possibility. We still want you to treat this like it's on the ground just to be on the safe side. But I think the fact that that looks a little less intense is a good sign. However, the one thing I will add to that is we're still in that area where we are handing off between the Grand Rapids radar and the Detroit radar. So we're going to double check this and just make sure that that's not only kind of diminishing in intensity because we're going into different sites here.
It does still look better on the Grand Rapids radar rather than the Detroit radar, simply just kind of being closer toward on the west side of 127. Just also wanting to point out the North Shade Township Hall is a location that is very close to this rotation. We also have a couple of churches that are out there. This is the west of Rainbow Lake, but if you are around Rainbow Lake, make sure that you are headed to your basement or an interior closet or bathroom, because those are moving through. Again, this is just south of North Shade, and we are still seeing rotation with this. I do want to slow it down just so we can kind of see, and I am going to back it out so we can kind of watch how quickly. That's another thing that I want to point out is that we've been streaming since about 10 o'clock, and it's been a lot of these systems popping up and being able to develop so quickly, just like what we had here for Gratiot County. And we even have had hail in these systems do this. And then we continue to see that they push through. I am happy to see that that rotation has weakened from that cell that was moving through Bloomer. If you were in Fulton Township though, or even if you're in Clinton County there in Essex, I would still be, because you're under in that tornado warning, sheltering in place with this coming through. So though we are starting to see this weaken a little bit, it still is going to be active here. Now that tornado warning is still going to be going for 36 more minutes. So I know that that is going to go through much of our 11 o'clock newscast. So if you are looking for the latest news and headlines, head to WNEM.com. We're also streaming there. If you have friends and family that are trying to get connected, you can go and let them know that we are streaming at WNEM.com. We are also on the WNEM YouTube and Facebook pages. I started there, so for folks who are watching us there, we have switched inside to our studio so we can cover this tornado warning.
So one thing I will say is you see that bright area that we've got, bright shade of pink, orangish pink right there. Even if we're starting to see the areas of rotation get a little less intense, there could still be a pretty good pop of wind here. And this is starting right along that M57 area. This is where you're starting to get closer to Fulton Middle and High School. As you get into Fulton Township, it is important to know also that if you are in Ithaca, you are not included in this. If you are on the northern side of Gratiot County, say in Alma, St. Louis, Wheeler, you are also not included in this, just to name a few. It is primarily right along that M57 corridor in areas that are south of there, going down into the Maple Rapids area and also going down into areas like St. John's. It looks like the warning kind of goes right through part of St. John's and is to the north. So the trajectory of that warning polygon is mostly off to the south and east.
I'm also just kind of keeping an eye, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, we can have some of these cells that pop up. I understand that this is not in mid-Michigan, but just to kind of explain very quickly, just we have kind of this hot spot that's picking up in Clinton County. So that's just meaning that we can have a lot of these storms that can be embedded. There's still quite a cluster. And also, I just kind of want to explain why this happened here, because we see that we have our rainfall that was actually coming in. Actually, Chris, I'll trade you at the wall just so I can kind of point this out here. So what we were working with when we were live streaming is we had this rainfall. So this was just starting to kind of come out ahead of the storm. This is moving towards the northeast. Well, then we had our line of storms, which we're currently tracking towards the southern half here of Gratiot County. And so we had our storms coming here, that initial line also coming through. And when they were colliding, that's how we ended up with that spinning and that rotation component. So you can still really kind of see some of that signature here just west of Bloomer. That's why we have that tornado warning here along M57, even including Ashley. So we are still going to be finding that we have this momentum carrying northeast. Well, we do have this line that's also coming in. So it's kind of a great thing that they are still keeping that tornado warning here for the next half hour. because as these two boundaries collide, we could still run into a couple of issues here tonight in southern Gratiot County until this passes.
So I am keeping up on the comments on our Facebook live stream as well. So if you have reports to pass along to us, or just like everybody else, if you see us with our phones, we are looking at any reports that might be coming in. Did get one that is relevant, and it might be good for other areas too. So we did get a report along M46 that the sirens were going off in St. Louis. St. Louis, you are not included in this tornado warning. You are not included in this tornado warning at this time. Alma is not included. If you are as far north as M46, you are not included. If you are in Parenton, if you are in Ashley, if you are in Fulton Township, again, right along M57 seems to be the area of most concern now. I haven't seen that debris ball come back.
I haven't. The velocities really started to pick up here just east of North Shade. And so I wanted to kind of highlight this area. It may be a little bit on the broad side, but it did just come together enough to where I didn't want to let go of this system. So that's why we are telling folks in Fulton Township to be headed to your shelter, because this, though it may weaken, it still could kind of resurge and come back for us. So this is just going to continue here kind of right along M57, and we may even find that that storm just kind of tries to stay south of M57. So just note that that's going to continue to go there along the highway.
Yep, and so we're talking tonight, this is an event that could be very similar if you remember last year when we were talking about the St. Charles tornado, if we were talking about the Atlas Township tornado. It's not necessarily a night where we're going to see these big thunderstorms that are on their own, these big supercells or anything like that. What we might be seeing is as these line structures come through with the way that the winds could potentially spin. And this is something that's a little bit more relevant for some of our southern counties compared to areas like, let's just say Midland County, for an example. That warm front is not quite that far. And so these areas are a little bit closer to where you get a little bit of shifting in the winds. And so these areas are a bit more prone than maybe other areas tonight where some of these storms could spin up a little bit. And it's almost, for a lack of a better term, it's like whack-a-mole. And if you remember that coverage from last year, the night that we had that tornado in St. Charles, or the night we had the tornado in Atlas Township, during that coverage, we were finding these little areas of rotation embedded within these broader areas. And Diane, if you don't mind, if you have a moment, doesn't have to be right this second, but if you can switch over to the reflectivity, and so we can get a look at the traditional rainfall, and we can zoom out just a little bit, just to get a bigger picture here. One of the things that is going to be a little bit more difficult for us tonight, and one of the reasons why we want you to be a bit more cautious, is we have tons of rain happening with these storms tonight. There's a very good possibility that some of these storms could be rain wrapped as they come through. You may want to go look. It could be very hazardous if you go look, because you may not be able to see it very well. Obviously, you can't see it as well as you normally would because it's nighttime now, but that makes this potentially even more hazardous just because of the torrential rainfall that is occurring with some of these storms. Now, these, I believe, are the only warnings that we have locally in the TV5 viewing area right now. And again, that warning, can we go over, if you have a moment, in just a second, just show the warnings. There we go. These are the only warnings that we have that are close to the TV5 area right now. But again, notice the little trajectory here. This goes from Gratiot County all the way over and then sort of tapers off towards Shiawassee County. So what I would say is if you're in southern Saginaw County right now, or if you're in any portion of Shiawassee County and you are not under this warning just yet, kind of have your plan together right now, just to be safe. If we talked about this on our stream, we know it's warm tonight. Perhaps this is the time of night before you get ready to go to bed. You're taking the dog out or something like that. You've let them out for the last trip of the night. Make sure they're in. If the kids are sleeping, go get them, or have a plan to go get them, or do everything possible before that that is your last move, just to make sure that at a moment's notice, if one of these quick areas of rotation pops up, that you can go where you need to be as soon as that happens. So again, you're not under it right now. There's no guarantee you will be under it. But if you're in a place like Owasso, if you're in a place like Perry or Durand, or if you're even in a place like Chesaning, I think right now this seems like it might cut just to the south of you if they try to continue that. But these are the areas that you want to stay ahead of the game. And so you've got a ton of rain coming towards you right now. There's not even a severe thunderstorm warning, but just in case.
Yeah, so Chris, just real quick, I do want to bring up our second weather computer because I do have our safety notes there.
Okay.
Just to kind of remind folks kind of where to go. I know it can kind of be a little bit of a panic time here to kind of see where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to be doing. So again, we just want you inside a hallway, a bathroom, a closet, and then of course, if you have a basement, that's the best place to go. But maybe if you're in an apartment or a condo, you don't have a basement, so you want to head to the lowest level and put as many walls between you and outside because that is going to be kind of the best way to stay protected, cover your head. And I am also, I'm not sure if we have our producer up there that can start loading, but I will ask them if they could to start pulling up power outages maps because we do have power outages through Carson City and just south of there, and also towards Bloomer in Montcalm County, which these are some of the spots that we were watching for as far as tornado warnings.
Let's go back over to Max 1 because we do have a new tornado warning. Let's show just the warning first. This is a warning that is now being issued for kind of that southeasterly corner of Gratiot County. So Ashley, you were included before, but it now includes areas that are just southeast of Ithaca. And so let's see if we can zoom in on just the warning, see if we can get some of the towns here that are included. It's south of Lafayette, but it's including Ashley, Edgewood. It is maybe on the fringe of North Star. Bannister, you're included in that too. And so if you're in Saginaw County, like we were just talking about, if you're along M57 going into Saginaw, Fordney is up there too. These are the areas that are now included in a new tornado warning. And so looks like we've got that kind of extending just to the west, all the way up to the west of Saginaw County. And so I'm not sure why it does that, but it's cutting that off. But Edgewood, you're included. Yes,
so some of the locations that are going to be in there, just to kind of give a reference, the Gratiot Saginaw State Gaming area is under that warning. The Edgewood Church of God is under that warning. Just some of the locations that are popping up here. So that is going to include Ranson Road and Washington Road if some of these are there. Again, this is just south of the Lafayette area. So Lafayette was not in that warning initially. So we do just have that. That's going to go until 11:45 tonight. So again, we want you sheltering in place if you are in Gratiot County. This is not into Saginaw County yet. Let's pull up. I'm going to start with our rotation that we have here just north of Ashley. And so this is coming in just southwest of Edgewood. It's a little bit broad, but I do understand the tornado warning. I think that's a great call from the National Weather Service because we've seen these quickly spin up just like what we were seeing with this cell here. So I'm glad that Chris was able to kind of keep an eye to all of these warnings that are coming through for us.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. When we saw that Gratiot County warning come in initially, we saw a very clear signal for not only a rotation signature, but a very clear signature for debris. I'm not seeing that yet with this. I'm not seeing a debris signature, and like you said, I think at first glance, this tells me this area is rotating. You've probably got a pretty good thunderstorm here that is rotating pretty good. If this were daylight, I think you'd be able to see it rotating pretty easily, but what you're not seeing is that really tight circulation just yet.
And it is trying to hook. It's very muddy, but
yeah,
it is trying to spin. I was also wondering when we're looking here, I'm going to switch to the velocities for the Detroit one. So Chris, this is Detroit, this is Grand Rapids.
And if our director can get in my ear, if you have a moment, while Diane's looking at that, Stone Schaefer has joined us with coverage. If you could have somebody from the booth come out and get him set up with a mic, if possible, no rush. Okay, he's got a microphone. That's good. But it's this area right here that Diane's looking at. This is that northeasterly section of the warning that did include Ashley, but is now east of 127. This is also, if you want to zoom out just a touch, Diane, when you have a second. We just want to get areas like Saginaw County prepared for this. So if you're kind of, I would say northeast of this, so northeast of this warning right here that comes right up to the county line right there. So I would say if you're south of M46 right now and west of M52, but north of 57. So almost like a big rectangle or square right in this area here, south of 46, west of 52, and north of 57. So some of those towns, if we want to zoom in just on that northwest corner of Saginaw County, I would say Merrill, you're probably good for the moment. We'll kind of keep an eye on you just because this circulation has drifted north. But I would say if you're southeast of Merrill and west of 52, those are some areas that I would watch for any possible extension of this warning into the area tonight, just to be on the safe side.
And
again, one second, Diane, just to get your plan in place there.
I do want to just kind of point out that this is still fairly broad. It is trying to pick up with some of those winds coming in. We are on the edge, so sometimes we can find on the edge of the Grand Rapids radar, or any radar, that they can come in some of these values on the stronger side. I do want to put the component that even though we do see some rotation, the winds will be very strong in this cell. So this is going to be still a wind hazard for us. We've also been watching the hail potential. I will pull that up again. It's really the rotating winds that we're watching. The hail seems to have settled down. When we were streaming earlier, we kind of had better coverage on the hail. But again, we can have some strong winds that are also falling down, even if they're not really kind of confirming any rotation for us. I still don't see any debris. And also, because I know folks are trying to tune into the news here at 11 o'clock, with this tornado warning carrying on until 11:45, we are going to stick with the tornado warning coverage. So if you are looking for the latest news, make sure that you head over to WNEM.com. We're also live streaming there and on the TV5 News app. So there's a lot of ways to connect with us as we are trying to cover all of these areas. With this being actually still in Saginaw County, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris or Stone, we do have First Alert Meteorologist Stone Schaefer. He's mic'd up now, but we don't so far have anything warned in Saginaw County, but we are still first alerting you that we want you sheltering in place there. The National Weather Service is kind of hinting that Shiawassee and Saginaw counties are still going to be some areas that we are watching here. So you can see the light show that we have on our camera here in downtown Saginaw. There's plenty of lightning that is present. So we're kind of already seeing the edges of the system, and there has been a lot of lightning strikes in all of these. I'm thankful that there's not a lot of people out tonight. Still, of course, drivers here on 75 and Birch Run. But if you do know somebody who is driving, especially here along M57 or throughout Gratiot County, make sure that they are first alerted to this tornado warning. And Stone, thank you for coming in tonight and helping us out here. Of course, you're just kind of hopping into this coverage, but we have been seeing this kind of just going here throughout Gratiot County.
Yeah, that line produced about 3 areas of rotation. One was a little bit farther south out of our area, but there was 2 closer to us that did get warned. Obviously, those have continued to move towards Saginaw County, but right now just in Gratiot County, including Ashley with that. And we'll just continue, like we keep mentioning, to watch for this line as it moves through, because like I said, it keeps producing rotation really from Saginaw County all the way through Grand Rapids. That line has had rotations on and off throughout most of the night.
And I'm going to go back to the Grand Rapids system because you can see here on our tornado warning. So this is a little bit for the southern one, the one that's been across Gratiot County. So we should also update folks that were in Sumner, Perrington, Fulton Township. You are still under that. If you're in Sumner, you are no longer under that tornado warning. But if you are in Fulton Township, you will see that that update still has you. So even Bridgeville, if you're along 127. So we have seen some updates there. But I'm going to go back to our velocities because we were seeing a lot of rotation and some circulation, and that is still trying to get something going just west of Ashley. It's very, very broad. We can actually see that some of our better rotation is in the northern portion of that second tornado warning.
Before you go northeast a little bit too much. I think probably here very soon, areas like Fulton and Perrinton will probably be trimmed from this warning. So maybe just give yourself a few extra minutes, but I think that's a decision that is going to come very soon. Again, this area, very broad, so areas like Lakefield, be on the lookout here. It seems like based on its current track, what you would think is this is probably going northwest of St. Charles, but I still think with all the uncertainty and how this one has kind of deviated a little bit over the last half hour or so, and how this one has gone a little bit further to the north and developed there. I would say anywhere, again, St. Charles, areas west of 52 west of 52. I saw that sign down there. West of 52 and north of 57, right along M46. This region right here, I would definitely just be prepared. If the Weather Service in Detroit extends that warning into your area, haven't gotten any indication of that yet. And like Diane has been mentioning, it's looking fairly broad. We're not seeing that really. This looks a little bit better than, is this the Grand Rapids radar?
This is the Detroit radar.
This is the Detroit one. So
a little bit messy, but in Grand Rapids, it's not nearly as organized.
Yeah, I think what we will do is once we start getting this a little bit further into Saginaw County, I think we're going to get a sharper image. Again, we're in that handoff zone between the radars, and so Grand Rapids is starting to shoot a little higher in this storm. Detroit's also getting a fairly high look at it. So we'll monitor this, but like I've been saying, I think if you're in that northwest corner, there it is, right there.
I was going to say, they just pushed it into Saginaw County. That includes St. Charles, Thomas Township, in that area. That also goes until, let me see if I can load it up. That goes until 12:15. Let me see if I can find some more details here on that.
But as we were mentioning, so actually I'll have our director pull up that second weather computer again, just to kind of keep reminding folks that if you are in Saginaw County, you just got this tornado warning. These were the locations in green. Of course, not everybody's house is the same, but kind of in these panic moments, we want you inside, a most interior room, like a closet, a bathroom, even a stairwell. Even if you have stairs going to the basement's going to be the prime location, but we understand not everybody has a basement. So bathrooms, closets, maybe have a walk-in pantry, just anything that, a room that doesn't have any windows, that's going to be what you're looking for. So if you're just waking up here from going to bed early, it's 11:28, and you're seeing that we have the tornado warning here into Saginaw County, just a reminder, these are some of the spots that we want you headed.
Yep, so this includes areas like Hemlock, this includes Swan Creek, this includes Shields. This is right up to the edge of Saginaw Township. And so it's based on where the label is on the map, you would think part of it could be included in Saginaw Township. I'd say it's close enough. If you're at a place like Thomas Township or Shields, you've got some time. This is the time to take advantage. This warning has been extended all the way towards that area, so you've got a fair amount of time to get yourself organized here. But again, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, and Diane's showing the reflectivity right now. So Diane, you can stay there. I'll give it to you in just a moment. Is please do not try to look for these tonight because of how rain-wrapped they could be, because of how much rain is falling right now.
Yes, so there is a lot of heavy rain, but I just want to explain why this is happening here into Saginaw County. We were talking about this in Gratiot County in very same setup to where we still have this round of rain that was coming in and building out ahead of the line that is still continuing to push south and east. So we will see that this is kind of cutting here along M52, and that's headed north and east. But here we have this line that's cutting through Ashley. So we're headed in two different directions with our storms, and that's why we are seeing this convergence and these boundaries colliding and then causing that rotation. So that's why we will find that that warning does cover a large portion of western Saginaw County, because we have both of these boundaries that are colliding. So again, you'll see this first boundary here along M52, the second boundary just sitting along the Gratiot and Saginaw County line. So as these come together, that's why we are going to be seeing that rotation that's going to be coming through. And they do have actually a severe thunderstorm warning for the entire county. That I believe is new, correct, Chris?
It has to be within the last couple of minutes. So this is the latest scan. This is for the Detroit radar. Let me see if we can get a slightly better view. Yeah, we're definitely getting into that area of handoff right now. But I would say this is definitely, I think, to the point where areas, it's when we get that pink color right there on the latest scan, it just becomes messy. So I'm actually going to pause this and see if I can go back one scan.
Also, our producer, and I can faintly hear them, the outdoor warning sirens are going off across Saginaw.
Okay.
So if you are in the city of Saginaw, we do want you sheltering in place. It is not there yet, but use the sirens as a chance to get to your spot. If you are in St. Charles, we also want you, of course, everybody needs to be headed to their safe spots, but you are going to find that if you are in St. Charles, you do not have nearly as much time. Now, if you are in Kochville Township, you are not under that tornado warning. Again, this does include Thomas Township, so that's going to be along M46 coming kind of west out of town. You'll also see Midland Road, so that's M47 is included there. So where you have M46 and M47 cutting together. So that's going to be headed out towards the Gratiot-Stormire. So if you are closer towards that mire on that side of Saginaw, that's where we want you, or you are in that tornado warning. So we want to urge folks in the southwest corner of Saginaw to be watching this system. And even Hemlock, you are also in this.
It's this area right here that I think if you are in Thomas Township, Swan Creek, these are the regions that I think you have plenty of time right now to start making those preparations, start getting things downstairs or get to the place. Lowest floor, the most interior room you can find. So if you don't have a basement, lowest floor possible, away from as many windows as you can have. If you have a room that is the safest place you can be with windows, grab a pillow, anything like that. Make sure that you've got something that can protect you a little bit as you come through. But this is the area of circulation. So just to give you a reference point, Thomas Township, these areas further to the northwest, St. Charles, you're far away from this for now. It is right along that area where you've got Gratiot County going into Saginaw County, south of Lakefield. This is the area that is most under concern right now. So we've got the motion on this. How fast is this going?
So this is moving at 50 miles per hour.
So this is moving pretty quickly. So you've got areas like Hemlock within the next 10 to 15 minutes. Thomas Township closer to about 11:53. You've also got Guardian Angels Church, if that is something that rings a bell for you, that landmark there, our mapping is picking up on that. That's within probably the next 10 minutes.
Yes, and so of course this will be in Shields in about 22 minutes. So though you think, oh, I have 22 minutes, still shelter now, even if you think that you have some time. I do want to continue open. Now we have the latest update. I was going to zoom in on this cluster because it's still fairly tight and trying to get going, but I was really watching here just east of Edgewood, so it was still into Gratiot County. I was really kind of watching these two pixels here where we had these bright red colors and these greens just kind of pixel and pixel back to back. But that was the latest, or the second oldest radar scan. So now we're kind of back to where we are still seeing that this is some tight rotation. Again, this is going to be north of Fordney, west of Lakefield. And we should have some roads here as well that we can kind of give folks a little bit of direction as it's going to be coming through. So some of these, so Hemlock Road, that's a very popular kind of north and south road. So if you are along and east of Hemlock Road, we definitely want you sheltering. We also are going to be looking at Lakefield Road. It is still south of there. So if you are south and west of Lakefield Road and Hemlock Road, that is where we are seeing the best cluster of these storms trying to rotate. And we don't have anything confirmed on the ground at this point. But with that rotation, we just want everybody sheltering because we have seen these storms change very quickly. Again, this is still west of M52. Of course, about last year in May, we were monitoring this for St. Charles. So this is still west of St. Charles, but we are going to be seeing that that could just come through on the north side of town. So Roosevelt, Swan Creek, some of these areas, even James Township, Shields, Thomas Township. That's why you are under that tornado warning that's going to be active here through, I believe, midnight or even 12:15.
I think it was 12:15.
12:15. So that is going to be our zone that we're watching here, again, coming into Saginaw County. Also, I do want to point out for folks who are in Saginaw County but not under the warning, actually, Stone, you were seeing that we had a lot of these severe thunderstorm warnings come in.
Yeah, so they actually just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for both Saginaw and Shiawassee counties that with a tor possible. So it means there's that chance of tornado, especially into Shiawassee County. They do have that tornado warning into Clinton County, just west of Langsburg and Owasso. That will be an area we have to watch out for next, I believe. There is some areas trying to. It's not the greatest looking rotation right now, but we'll just have to see how that continues. Obviously, it's this line that's moving through that is continuing to give us these areas of rotation.
Yeah, so one thing that you can look at is if we switch over to just the warnings for a second, if you see one of these pop up, is if you notice we've got yellow boxes with these red outlines on them. They're more for us, but in case you want to do some interpretation on your own, these tell us that there are signs of rotation or signs of rotation headed to some of these locations. They may not be strong enough to actually go with a tornado warning yet. When the Weather Service issues tornado warnings, they like to be sure. They like to at least have as much confidence as possible before they issue one of those. And so it's that circulation here that is going into Shiawassee County. That almost looks like
There is a second area. It looks to be just sort of towards Victor, west of Langsburg and west of Bennington Township that has been showing up.
If you want to zoom to the north just quickly, it seems like this is more of a straight line wind here.
Yes.
We've got kind of a bow echo effect out ahead of that. So just maybe that north. Is that the northwest side of Shiawassee?
Yes.
Right there? Yep. And that's the one we have, just the severe thunderstorm warning. So that is one of the reasons why this part right here is probably under the severe thunderstorm warning, but then you've got that secondary location that's off to the south. And so that latest circulation into Saginaw is just west of St. Charles right now.
Yes, so we are seeing this between Lakefield and Forney. Though we were talking about that circulation in Clinton County, if you're in Shiawassee County with that severe thunderstorm warning, we brought that up because that is going to be moving eastward. So though we don't have any tornado warnings for Shiawassee County, we were watching that circulation. So we want you first alerted and knowing where you're going to head just in case that warning comes in. But since we do have that active tornado warning here through Saginaw counties, again, this is going to be west currently of M52, southwest of Roosevelt and Lakefield, but it does include Thomas Township. So again, kind of the mire on the west side of Saginaw is included. So if you're saying, okay, I know where the mire, I know where the Culver's is, some of the fast food chains that are there, that is going to be included because I know that the sirens are going off in Saginaw, so you have people who are coming awake, hearing the rumbles of thunder, hearing those sirens tonight.
Can we do a broad view of the radar quickly? Because I'm looking at some of the chat, and we can just zoom out for the entire DMA here, just to give everybody a little bit of an update and just circle back out every once in a while to give a more broad view here. So if we take a look to the north, so this is outside of our area right here. You see a red box. This is a dark red box. That indicates what would be a flash flood warning in that area. So that is something that we'll have to keep an eye on and see if any of these storms end up producing some flash flooding conditions for this. This part of the line right here seems like this is diving a little bit further south towards Lansing. And we were talking earlier, I'm not ready to say it just yet. I want to see how this moves a little bit further to the east, but there were some hints that maybe we could get two segments to break off here with some of our data earlier. So this segment right here may go a little bit further to the east, while this line dives a little bit farther to the south towards Lansing. Right now, if you're in areas, let's see if we can just drag the radar just a little bit further to the north, because I think we've only got the closest radar site on. So it gives us a better view. But again, if you're in places like Roscommon, Ogama, Iosco, Clare, Gladwin, Standish, not necessarily for rotation purposes, but those areas are primarily just seeing regular rain showers. The area of most concern for now is this circulation that is just southwest of Roosevelt. We still don't have any confirmation, right?
We don't, and I don't have a debris signature either, but I wanted to bring our attention here just because this continues to flare and it's trying to get organized. And with this being west of St. Charles, where we did have that tornado last year, I wanted to just keep this fresh on folks' mind here in western Saginaw County.
Sorry to interrupt there. They did actually just issue a tornado warning for southern Shiawassee County. That is including Lanesburg, Bennington Township, Perry, Morris. You're going to be included in that. Bancroft, Durand, Byron. So almost all of southern Shiawassee County now has that tornado warning issued for you. There is an area of rotation. Looks to be just north of Lanesburg. Can we actually pull it up? Because that's looking like it's trying.
Right in this area right here.
Yes.
So that is that second area that you both were just talking about. So right around Victor, it seems like it's got that little area that's starting to spin there or trying to. So we'll watch that closely here. Is this Grand Rapids radar or Detroit?
This is still Detroit.
Okay.
And also for folks in Shiawassee County, your tornado warning is going to be active still for 48 minutes. So that's going to last until 12:30 tonight, or actually into tomorrow morning. So we have been watching this again, that circulation for folks into Shiawassee County. This circulation is currently in Clinton County, but as Stone and I were watching here, we suspected that they were going to issue that tornado warning for Shiawassee County. So Perry, Bennington Township, Burns, you are in this warning. We will see this cover I-69. So if you know somebody who maybe works the later kind of night shift and that's going to be their drive, make sure that they are alerted that this is coming through. Bancroft, Vernon, you are there. If folks are joining us from Owasso or Corona, you are not in this warning just because this is going to continue heading south and eastward. So we do have, just to kind of summarize this, we have the circulation that we have in Victor in Clinton County, and then I am going to continue to check here.
This one's
into
starting to look
Saginaw
a little
County.
bit more broad.
Yes, it is definitely starting to kind of fall apart as it's still sitting here west of M52. Just
So
west
this
of
is a good
Charles.
sign. We're not ready to give up on this just yet, but I think we are seeing signs of a little bit of a weakening trend here, or at least maybe not weakening, maybe that's not the right word, a little bit less organization with that as it starts to approach M52. So this would be where M46 intersects M52. So that's right where you've got that 7-Eleven on the corner there as you're going further into western Saginaw County. So that's a good sign for now. It does appear that Chesaning, you're sort of on the border of that warning. I wouldn't say Chesaning's an immediate danger at the moment.
They'll have some strong winds here
Yeah.
fairly soon, so all of that red and green that we have, that's going to be a pretty strong push of winds. I haven't seen any reports of what that's going to be
We
coming
did get a report
through.
of sirens going off in Bridgeport.
But our best circulation, I'm actually going to kind of zoom out here. So kind of the components that we're watching going to be the circulation that we have here just west of Shiawassee County. And then we were watching the circulation here into Saginaw County. That's a little bit more broad. And then also we have this push of winds that's coming into northern Shiawassee County. So again, if you're in Owasso, you are under the tornado warning. And same for Chesaning. However, this is going to be bringing a pretty good strong push of winds. That's why there is still that severe thunderstorm warning. So again, we have two clusters of storms that are setting up, and then we have a big push in between these two systems. I'll pull up our reflectivity here too so we can see. It really almost appears looking at this that second kind of linear line that we were watching is now just pushing that first line out ahead of it. So I'm wondering if that second line's actually becoming a little bit stronger. It's kind of having a little more in the driver's seat and able to kind of push that forward. So if you are in Genesee County, you do not have any warnings currently, but you see that first line is actually setting up. So the heavy rainfall is soon going to be moving in towards Schwartz Creek, Flushing, Montrose Township, and Birch Run. We'll start to see that heavy rainfall. But with these two lines, I'm just going to be keeping an eye because we've seen these collide, we've seen these boundaries work together and also against one another, and that's why we've had so many tornado warnings here tonight.
Yep, and we have gotten a report of the sirens going off in the Birch Run area too. Birch Run, you are not under a tornado warning at this time. You're likely getting at least a light show here and likely some rain. But you are not included officially in the tornado warning yet. With that being said, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag. So again, if you are just joining our coverage or if you missed it earlier, a tornado possible tag just means that we do have storms in the area or a storm itself that is showing signs of rotation, but the areas that are under the warning with a tornado possible tag, it just means that nothing has come together enough for the Weather Service to issue a warning of a tornado category just yet. And so Bertrand, again, you've gotten reports that your sirens are going off. We've gotten reports of Bridgeport being included in that. SVSU, I know, is sending their alerts out tonight for students on campus. However, SVSU would be a little bit more outside of that tornado warning. So not necessarily enough to say to any students at SVSU to let your guard down, but I wouldn't say you're in an immediate path of a tornado right at this moment. And even some of these areas in that tornado warning, with that area of rotation looking a little bit less organized, it does seem like we're getting at least some positive signs there, but the warning still is in place. So if you're in any of these areas that are included in that, we want you to keep treating that as if that circulation is still looking pretty strong, just to be on the safe side.
Yes, and this is still trying to spin into rotate. So around Brant, southeast of Fordney, northwest of Chesney. And we just have this cluster that's also trying, just like we were seeing that cell in St. Charles. So this is still trying to get going.
So just to ease some anxiety here, can we pause right around St. Charles, because that's where that circulation is. Now if we can pull up that correlation coefficient, which is what we look at for debris, and just pause it right there. I'm not seeing anything that stands out to me that says there is debris being tossed into the air in St. Charles. And there's probably, we've talked all evening long about how there's been some anxiety going into the night tonight. I'm sure there's even more in St. Charles because of what happened last year. Right now, that circulation is close to you. We want you taking that seriously. But the fact that we are not seeing a debris ball here is a good sign, at least on the surface. Now, of course, if you're seeing something different, please let us know. But things look like they're in okay shape for now. Let's go back to the circulation just quickly, because this does seem like after moving northeast, it's starting to take a little bit more of an east-northeasterly trajectory. And so if we zoom out just a touch and get that M46 corridor in there, if you look at areas like Merrill, you're not included in this. Areas that are west of Thomas Township. Thomas Township, I think things are looking promising for you right now. This seems to be primarily going off to your south. So there's that intersection right here. We've got M46 and M52. That's where you've got, I believe, Saginaw Control. And then you've also got that 7-Eleven on the corner, and then you take 52 down to St. Charles. So it's that intersection right there, sort of on the northern fringe of that. You're okay. Areas to the west of St. Charles now, on the western side of Saginaw County, think you're going to be able to get out of your safe space here soon if you're still there. Chesaning, likely some stronger winds moving into your area. You're still getting a thunderstorm there. And also, let's just go back to reflectivity for a moment. You've got torrential rain happening with some of these storms. Let's zoom out of Saginaw just quickly. Let's take a look at Bay City. A lot of questions coming in about Bay City, and I believe, is that a new tornado warning for Shiawassee, or is that one already in effect?
That's the original one that we've been watching
that is for
Victor.
That. My bad. We were focusing on this one, and I forgot that southern circulation there for a moment. But just want to quickly zoom out. Bay City, Midlands, areas like Mount Pleasant, Alma, and for at least now, places like Caro, you're in good shape for the moment. We'll see how things progress out of Saginaw County, Huron County. You've still got a while before any of this starts to get to you. We've got Standish, we've got Whittemore, we've got Gladwin, our top row of counties here. Your primary hazard for the moment is rain, considering how much rain you have had. So I just wanted to take a broader view really quick, because I know we've got a lot of people in Bay City. We love hearing from our Bay City viewers. We also like our Midland County, everyone we have. But these areas are a little bit under the gun with some of this heavy rain, and also probably a lot of lightning. So just to ease some minds for a second, places in Bay City, you're okay for the moment. If that changes, we'll let you know. Let's go back to that circulation that are a little bit further south, where we've got that tornado warning coming into Shiawassee County.
And it looks to be crossing 52 right now between Owasso and Perry, just south of Bennington Township. I know there's a few subdivisions in that area that obviously, if you are there, you need to be in your shelter just in case there is something touching down. There's right now is just radar indicated. We have no indications that there is a tornado, but we just want you to be prepared. That's going to, again, head just north of Morris towards Bancroft. So if you're in Bancroft, I'd say get to your safe place to Rand. you obviously as well should probably get into your safe location as this rotation heads just to the east-southeast at this point.
Yes, and the rotation does look fairly broad still with that cell, but still it is tornado warned.
Yes.
So as you had mentioned, we just want the eastern portions of Shiawassee County to know where they're going to head here and that they should be heading there. Also, I do want to acknowledge the folks that we were watching in Gratiot County. I know that we've had a lot going on. We have seen damage reports coming in for Gratiot County. So we are still going to continue to watch, but we are finding that that line has kind of pushed through. But the same circulation that brought damage to communities in Gratiot County, we are continuing to see that same line have some troubles for us here into Shiawassee County and Saginaw County.
So we are getting reports of sirens at SVSU again, sirens again in Carlton, sirens again in Saginaw Township. So what we are getting here, we have not seen. If we want to go back, we've got that live picture of Saginaw now. Pretty good, like we said, a pretty good light show, and that's pretty much going to be the case for everybody that's around basically US 10 and to the south. Our northern counties don't seem to have quite as much lightning as areas to the north. There are still lightning strikes. I don't want to say it's not happening, but it seems like everything is far more intense the further south you go.
I also want to talk about Genesee County just getting that severe thunderstorm warning. One thing that's different about this severe thunderstorm warning on our first weather computer when we pull that up is that, well, you can see the rain here in downtown Flint. It's on the lighter side here with heavier rain that's soon going to be rolling in there. But the good news is that we do not have that red outline. So what that means here for Genesee County is that there is not a tornado possible tag. So we do still have the chance for seeing wind gusts over 60 miles per hour. Hail can definitely be sizable. That's why the severe thunderstorm warning is there. But we are not seeing at least an environment potentially that can support some of that rotation and that circulation and spinning that we've been seeing throughout Shiawassee and Saginaw counties. So if you are in Genesee County, we cannot give you the all clear, but the good news is that we are seeing this weaken enough to where the National Weather Service did not feel like they needed to add that tornado component to that severe thunderstorm warning. Now that warning though is going to be in effect here for a little bit longer because that actually was just released. I want to pull that up here because if you're in Genesee County, that is going to last until 1 a.m. So they did issue that well ahead before the line rolls through, but that just gives us time to head to safe locations. Again, it's not a tornado warning, but it does allow us to prepare for those storms to come in since those are setting up towards our west.
Let's see if we can go back to M52 through Shiawassee County just to go back to that warning. Still doesn't seem...
I will say there are some power outages around the Langsburg area just north where that rotation went through. So that could be a signal that something was on the ground, but...
now Langsburg, that's Clinton County, right?
That's actually in Shiawassee. Some of it is in, I think it's split.
Okay, I was going to say, if it wasn't completely in Shiawassee County, I know it's very close to the edge. So, okay, we've got that circulation too. Stone said there's some power outages there. Doesn't necessarily mean a confirmed tornado, just means at the very least we've gotten some strong winds. As far as a lot of reports in Saginaw County, sounds like we've got sirens going off in the Frankenmuth area. Frankenmuth at the moment is not included in this tornado warning. Birch Run is not included in this tornado warning. And downtown Saginaw, at least for now, is not included in that tornado warning as well. Sirens, getting a report that we are getting more sirens at SVSU. So one thing, let's clear up as we're talking about sirens right now. Please know that sirens are under different rules in different places. So you've got different townships, you've got different cities, different counties in some cases, all operating under different rules. That doesn't make those rules wrong or anything like that, but you just need to know the context of some of those sirens is not always because we're talking about tornadoes. Some sirens are sounding because of the threat for strong winds, which is what we have regardless of what type of warning you're under tonight. And that's been the main concern for us since this afternoon. Now, we're tracking tornado warnings, but as of this point, except for that portion of Montcalm County, we have not gotten any confirmation of anything touching the ground here locally in the TV5 viewing area. And it seemed like that warning really dissipated, or at least the debris ball dissipated once it went through Gratiot County. So our primary concern continues to be wind, but we are seeing enough rotation with some of these storms tonight that it's at least something we've kind of had to keep an eye on here, similar to, we've pointed it out a couple of times last year when we were talking about that night where we had a couple of tornadoes, one in St. Charles and one in Atlas Township, is you get these little areas of rotation that pop up very quickly sometimes in these scenarios. And so what we're watching for is just anything quick that pops up. But right now, I wouldn't say there aren't areas that we are keeping a close eye on. I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out at me compared to the warning that we had just to the west of Gratiot County.
Yeah, and I'll say there are, I think there was a report of damage in that location south of Carson City.
Can we have our director pull up that Consumers Energy map? I understand that there's not a ton of folks out there, but there's enough folks that are going to be in the dark here in Gratiot County here tonight. They do have crews there, but this kind of shows the areas that we were watching. So some of these towns that we've been calling out, Carson City, coming in towards Fulton Township.
Actually, let's go back just to the, I'm sorry, Diane, let's focus on that map really quick, just so we can show it. But it's looking to me like that circulation, I'm not sure, the color scheme is a little bit funny tonight, but I'm just looking at it on my phone. It seems like it's trying to pick back up.
I was gonna say, that was a little farther south than the original location. This is now looking...
Okay, right about here.
Oh yes, now I see where you're looking at, yeah.
Yep, so this is going to be just on the very edge of that tornado warning where we're just kind of seeing that pick up. And
They just extended it.
Okay, I was going to say that picked up pretty quickly, and that kind of goes along with everything that we have been talking about up to this point of watching those things happen quickly. So now, if you are in Birch Run, or now if you are in Bridgeport, these are the areas that are now included. So if you are hearing sirens again in Birch Run or Bridgeport or the surrounding areas, Frankenmuth is likely included in this now too. These are new areas where we've got a tornado warning. So Stoner, Diane, if you want to take a look at that text, does it say radar, a severe storm capable of producing a tornado, or have they gotten anything confirmed?
It is radar indicated rotation that they are first alerting. The storm's moving at about 40 miles per hour. So I'm going to let this rotation spin, Chris, but I'll try to get you a track here.
Yeah, let's see if we can do that. So again, Birch Run and Frankenmuth and Bridgeport, these are areas that we were just talking about a few minutes ago when we were on the discussion of sirens. At that time, you were not included in that tornado warning. You are now, as we have started to get this circulation to pick back up here. As we move off to the east, and you said, what, roughly about 40 miles per hour?
Yeah, so I'm going to draw this cone in. Of course, this is just a cone that I'll take it here to Saginaw County. Sadly, it does not cover the entire width of the warning box.
Okay, so we are going all the way to Frankenmuth, closer to about 12:18. So within the next 20 minutes, St. Lorenz School in Frankenmuth, you're included in that around 12:17. So 12:18 is Frankenmuth proper. So I would prepare 12:10. 12:15, get down there as quickly as you possibly can. Gara, 12:20. We've got Foster's within the next 5 to 10 minutes. So these are the areas that are definitely needing to get to your basement now, or wherever your safe room is.
Though this looks kind of messy, we are still kind of watching. The rotation does seem, Chris, in this last scan to be just a touch broad. Again, the color table is a little bit messy tonight here on radar, but we are still seeing this just going to look like it will be headed a little bit closer towards Bridgeport rather than Burt, just to give some of the towns ahead. Doesn't mean that you're in the all clear because you have the tornado warning there.
And I would say a road it is moving along is Curtis Road there, just that goes south of Frankenmuth, south of Bridgeport. It runs east to west. It's almost around that location that we could see anything touch down if this is producing a tornado.
And we still have that warning that's in place for Shiawassee too. The southeastern corner, areas like Vernon, Durand, you are included in that. So that one is going until the next half hour or so.
Yes, and
or
that
no,
one
excuse me, that's the severe thunderstorm warning. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I just wanted to mention that that tornado warning in Shiawassee County has been trimmed.
Okay.
So now it is just including the eastern half. So we have Antrim, Burns. I believe Perry is still going to be in that, but
Perry will be west of that. So it is Durand, Bancroft. It's just north of you, but I'd still stay in your safe place. Byron, you're going to be south of this, but still be in your safe place with that rotation that it is heading towards Durand. So if you're in Durand, I'd also make sure you are in your safe place if you're not there already.
I am going to go back to the velocities here, and the velocity closer towards Vernon, Durand, it's almost kind of shifting. It's trying to rotate, but it is kind of shifting more into a gust, kind of a bow of winds, but it has that notch there closer towards Shiawassee Township. That's what we're watching, and this is actually sitting here right along I-69, so that is going to be a little bit troublesome for drivers. But just with that new tornado warning that was issued for Saginaw County, some of the rotation and the winds that we were watching, I know this looks messy, and we're also watching.
Can we load up CC on that? The National Weather Service in Detroit just said they were keeping an eye on this cell.
Okay.
Because there is this CC return.
This right here, this area here. So this is now east of St. Charles. So this is north of Albee, or at least on the north side of Albee. Let's pause that right there, just west of 13. And now let's pause that and go over to the area of rotation, and then pause that. It's kind of in the same area. So if you're in the Albee area or just west of there, if you are seeing damage, let us know. Play that CC back for me, please, if you could. Just the loop. It seems like it pops up and then goes away. So I'm almost wondering if something very brief happened right there.
Just with the velocities not aligning with the debris signature, that would tend to happen with the delayed response with that flying debris potential.
Yeah, so it's tough to say for sure, but that lines up with when we got that one scan stone that we were looking at while Diane was talking. I'm wondering if on a night like this, when we're watching for these quick circulations, if there was something that rapidly happens, maybe for a few minutes and then went away. I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure just yet, but the fact that the Weather Service in Detroit, Stone, is that what you said?
Yes, the National Weather Service in Detroit.
Okay.
They messaged that in their chat.
Okay, so around the Albee area, within the vicinity of Albee, let us know if you're seeing anything. We are checking power outages to see. Did get some questions. Is St. Charles in the clear? You are for now.
And I will say there is a very large area of power outages we just pulled up, popping where we saw that rotation through Shiawassee County. Again, this doesn't mean that there was a tornado. There was also some pretty strong wind there. But send that report in if you do have damage. Once you are in the clear, obviously, we want you to stay safe.
So this is just a visualization report here. It's not a formal report, but did get a report at my house that we did get some patio furniture blown off our deck. It's not the heaviest patio furniture, but it still would require a decent wind gust for us to get that off the deck. So you are going to get some strong winds in the absence, even outside of these areas of rotation. So you might see some things blown around as we get into daylight again tomorrow if you're not looking. Let's just see if we've got some. I'm looking at our Facebook live stream chat right now.
While you're doing that, I am
ahead.
just going to, because it is just shortly after midnight, we're at 12:04, and I know there's going to be some people who would like to go to bed. So let's see if we can give some folks some all clear further west. So you will see where we have this red. This is going to be kind of the best location for us to see these warnings come through, because that is where we have the strongest component. So if you are in Saginaw County, Shiawassee County, or Genesee County, you do not have the all clear. But if you are closer towards Gratiot County, Isabella County, we are seeing that the worst of this storm has passed by. You're still picking up on heavy rainfall. But we are able to give folks, again, Gratiot County, Isabella County, Clare, Gladwin, and then continuing further north, we are going to give you the all clear. Now, we have seen heavy rainfall, so that's something also to monitor tonight. It's not just for downed power lines and trees, but also it is very difficult while it is dark to see if there are flooded roadways, and that is easily going to be a possibility with these storms, because not only are we tracking for rotation, we are also seeing that there's a lot of water being picked up in the system, and we've already been very soggy lately. So that helps folks to at least know who can go to bed here and who needs to stay up with us a little longer.
I did get a report from Jess Lynn in Albee. She said she is near Fergus and Birch Run Road. She said the wind and rain really picked up but didn't hear debris, and she also still has power. So that's at least an optimistic report. That doesn't necessarily mean all of that area wasn't affected by that, but
what were those roads one more time?
it looks like Fergus and Birch Run Road.
All right, so here's Fergus and Birch Run Road. Okay, so right in between there.
So it was close by, but it may have went just to the north. But depending on how that grid is set up, you know, it could still be in the vicinity enough to be affected with a power outage. So we'll keep an eye on that. Jess, thank you for that report. A little bit of ground truth there. Let's see, we've got...
And one of the roads that was close to that was Bishop Road. So Bishop, Alicia Road, if you are saying, hey, that's my street, you may have a little bit better chance of more debris.
And Consumers Energy Map just popped up power outages in that area. So that's just north of Chesaning, right where we saw, almost right where we saw that rotation.
And if we do get any confirmation, of course, we will let you know. And if you've got any reports from that area in addition to the one we had, feel free to send that. Let's go back to Shiawassee County into Genesee County. This, to me, is starting to look like more of a straight line wind threat on the south end of it, closer to the south side of Durand. Seems like it's trying to do more of a straight line wind area right there. I would say on the north side of it, we just have to watch and see if anything tries to hook back around a little bit. But that one, we'll see if they continue that. Also, I would say probably some strong winds getting set to move into areas like Flushing and Swartz Creek. You're probably going to get a good gust here very soon, so downtown Flint. Let's do a quick summary of our warnings if we could. Give us a whole DMA view if we could. That also has a purple around it for the severe thunderstorm warning for Genesee County. So what is our special hazard for Genesee County?
Let me see if I can find it.
So what that means is if it's got a purple outline here, what that means is it's a slightly different severe weather warning than normal. So the standard is 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and 1-inch hail. The purple indicates we've got either hail that's larger than what we typically see, or we've got wind gusts that are stronger than that standard 60 miles per hour. So what do we got?
So,
Go ahead,
so this is TOR possible still. It is for hail up to an inch, winds up to 70 miles per hour.
Okay, so that would be a considerable.
Yes.
So we've got a considerable severe thunderstorm warning here, indicating the straight line wind potential is greater than just the standard 60 miles per hour. So you're starting, as you're getting closer to 70 miles per hour and higher, you're starting to approach EF0 category as far as the wind speed. And so you're not getting a tornado, but your winds are moving in that direction in sort of their highest potential. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings still in place for Saginaw County. Bay County, you are not included in this right now. We are getting a lot of questions about Bay County. We just got the western side of Saginaw County trimmed out from that. The tornado warning is still around that Bridgeport, Birch Run area, Frankenmuth. You're included in that. We will get back to you in just a moment. But a lot of these areas to the west now, you are in the clear. If you're in a place like Tuscola County, you need to be on your guard here for the next hour or so as we start getting more progress. Sanilac County, it's still going to be a while. Huron County, you're sort of on the northern fringe of that. So we'll see how things evolve for you. You've got time as well. Let's check in that area in Saginaw County again. And okay, did Shiawassee County just get added back to that? Did we just take that away and put that back, or was that there?
That was there.
That was there, okay. Or did they just trim that northwest corner?
They just trimmed the northwest corner and then western Saginaw County.
Something changed there, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't seeing anything. But let's go back to that area right around the Frankenmuth, Birch Run, Bridgeport area. Not really seeing a debris signature anymore, are we?
No, I'm not picking up anything, and also the rotation is very disorganized.
It seems like it's falling apart a little bit.
Yes, and this is also still where we're seeing kind of these two lines that are going kind of back and forth, so there is a little bit of a power struggle, so that's also why we're seeing to where these cells flare up. We're watching them for a little bit and then they back right down. So that's why there's that back and forth, because we're seeing the back and forth between these two lines here. I'll actually pull up radar so you can see both of them. So we have just kind of that second line that's actually coming in closer towards Frankenmuth and Birch Run, and then the initial line is actually closer towards M15, so right along Vassar into Millington. So these, if you're in Tuscola County, we don't have any warnings as of now, but still this kind of same cluster is what's been kind of the trouble here for tonight. But thankfully, again, we don't have any of those warnings for Tuscola County.
Now, up to this point, and this is all unofficial until we hear something differently, we have potentially one brief spin up
Yes.
near Albee, potentially, just based on what appeared to be a correlation coefficient signature. What that means is it's a tool that we use to look into storms, and we look to find how similar the shapes of the objects are in the storm. And so what you're looking for is areas where the radar is picking up on a lot of different shapes. So what would that be? It could be something like tree branches. It could be something like roof shingles. It could be just a variety of different things mixed up in a small area. We had a little signature that popped up, which we are not ready to say 100% was a debris signature, but was close enough to where we think it could be. And now if you're looking at downtown Saginaw, you can see the torrential rain. You can't even see the station behind the event park there because of the low visibility. So that's another thing. We've been focused on severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings. I do believe there is a flood warning in Gratiot County.
It's a flood advisory. By the way, they just canceled both tornado warnings
Great
for
news.
Saginaw and Shiawassee, but they did also issue a flood advisory for Genesee County and Saginaw County.
Okay, so that is a good sign. It is worth noting, though, is for those of you who were under the gun with those tornado warnings, you are still under this severe thunderstorm warning with this red outline here, indicating we've still gotten rid of the tornado warnings, but the Weather Service in Detroit has not been confident enough to get rid of the tornado possible. So what that says to me is that things look better for now. So things for Birch Run, things for Bridgeport, potentially, depending on how things evolve, downwind of those areas, Millington, Mayville, and Vassar, you might be able to relax for a moment. But the fact that this still has the tornado possible tag on it means I don't think we can let go of that completely for now. We need to kind of pay attention to this for the next hour or so and see how things evolve into that Tuscola County area. But again, western side of Saginaw County looks good. Areas, again, we've gotten frequent reports of sirens going off in places like SVSU. SVSU, you're technically under a severe thunderstorm warning right now. You're not immediately under an area of rotation. So for students who might be a little worried at SVSU, I would at least stay prepared, but right now things are okay. Bay City, you're okay too. But these are the areas that we still have warnings, and we'll continue to follow these.
And I'm also going to hop back here to radar just because we are finding that first line and that second line are still trying to come together here in northern Genesee County. So a little bit closer towards Otisville and even kind of just setting up around Clio, Mount Morris. So these two lines is where we have been seeing those tornado warnings come through. Again, we don't have any tornado warnings at this time, but we have heavy rainfall here into Schwartz Creek, Flushing. That's going to be extending in towards Clio. That's going to be headed just along 75. I know there's always some low spots there on 75 that are going to be maybe not draining as well. And with this amount of rainfall, we'll of course have our newsroom keeping an eye for any reports there. But I just kind of want to keep an eye here into Genesee County just because we do still have those two lines. They're still very close, but it's also a little bit messy here on radar. I will pull up the wind component because we do still have the tornado possible on that severe thunderstorm warning. So you can see that that line is not quite even from Argentine to Schwartz Creek. It kind of has that little nudge there. So this has just been trying to spin. This is the same cell that did have the tornado warning in Shiawassee County, but they did not extend that warning. So we are picking up on strong winds right now in Schwartz Creek, Flushing, and we are going to continue to see this line. If this was a little bit more smooth, then we would definitely be looking at only a wind threat. But because that line is not smooth, it's very jagged back and forth. That's why we are still keeping an eye for any rotation. So we are going to continue to just watch for that possibility. Thankfully, we're not seeing any strong notches, but as you've probably learned if you've been with us here for the last hour or so, it doesn't take much and we see these cells pop up and then they come back down. So it could be only a matter of moments that we may need to go and shift towards a certain notch or even little piece of rotation along this line.
And normally we would just go back to regular programming with no severe or with no tornado warnings in place. But I think with just the way this environment has been so far, I do think it's worth staying with things just a little bit longer. Just based on our live stream that we have right now, and just judging by the fact of how many people are on our live stream right now, there's clearly a need for this coverage or clearly an appetite for it. So I think with the fact that we're still also seeing severe thunderstorm warnings with tornado possible tags and just the fact that some of these areas of rotation have popped up quickly as we have gone throughout the night, I think it's worth staying with this for a little bit longer. If we do get to the point where we have severe thunderstorm warnings with just wind, not that we want to diminish that, but that is more so something that will probably keep our digital feed going and get you back to what is supposed to be on the air.
So I put this arrow here just because though it is a straight line, if you're west of this arrow, the severe threat is done.
Yeah, they've actually canceled the tornado watch for Clare, Isabella, and Gratiot counties at this point.
Okay.
So if you're hoping to go to bed, the further west you are, we are giving you permission to go to sleep tonight. I know it's a late night, it's 12:15. If you're in Saginaw County, it's still kind of borderline. We do still have that severe thunderstorm warning there. Shiawassee County, Genesee County, actually Genesee County, you're just now starting to have this storm arrive. So that's why we are going to continue with the coverage, even though we do not have a tornado warning. But again, I know it's late. A lot of you want to get to bed. You want that peace of mind knowing. So if you are kind of west of this line, so if you're in Bay City, we are going to allow you to go to bed. Midland, Standish, Gladwin, Clare, as Stone had just mentioned, we are seeing that tornado watch to be lifted throughout parts of mid-Michigan. I'll actually see if I can bring up that watch here so we can see that change. So it is just the National Weather Service office in Detroit, just their counties that are currently under the watch. So that's going to include Midland, Bay, Saginaw, Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, Tuscola, Huron, and Sanilac counties. Though that goes till 4 a.m., I do not anticipate needing it to last that long. Just like the other watch portions of the watch, I assume that that will be canceled early.
I think what we will see, Diane, is I think Midland's going to be out here soon. I think I'm comfortable enough telling Midland they're in the clear.
Yes.
I wouldn't feel bad about that at all. I think if you're in the western parts of Saginaw County, if you're in the western parts of Shiawassee County, I think you're probably getting to the point where you can rest easy for the night. I'm interested to see how well these storms evolve into Tuscola and also Sanilac and Huron County. I don't want any of you in these counties to let your guard down just yet, but things don't look quite as promising the further east you go. It seems like we're starting to see at least some of that intensity come down. Not enough to where I'm ready to get you in the clear just yet, but we're not seeing. The one thing that's standing out to me is this could always change. We're not getting the lead time on the warnings going into the thumb that we were getting into Saginaw County or into Shiawassee County and Genesee County. That doesn't mean we can't get warnings, but there's not as clear of a signal going into those areas that we'll see continuation. So maybe that's a good sign here.
And for folks who have been with us since we were streaming, even around 10 o'clock, I was talking about our mesoscale analysis. And what we were finding is that we didn't have a lot of energy in the thumb. So these storms are not moving into a favorable environment for storms. It doesn't mean that we can't have a thunderstorm, but it just means that they are going to struggle to survive and to hold together. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. We've been seeing a lot of those reds in Saginaw County, but now that they're coming in towards Tuscola County, they're not as vivid and they're not holding together all that well. We do have a better environment that was in towards Flint. We had temperatures that were still in the upper 60s and even some 70s. So that's why we're still holding that system a little bit better there because of the energy. But we are going to find that going into the thumb, kind of the northern portion of this, where we actually see kind of on the northern side some more, the scale itself you can see is finally starting, the two lines are kind of moving in that northeast direction, but trying to kind of come back as that second line pushes through. So though we kind of have that larger scale rotation, this is not going to be anything that turns into a large scale tornado. It's just, it finally looks like these two lines are coming together in an environment that is not very well energized. And so that's why we are still seeing heavy rain, still some thunderstorms, we still have lightning, but we are finding that we don't have any warnings and we aren't finding that it's nearly as strong or severe.
So we will keep this going for, like I said, just a little bit longer, just to give this the appropriate time. But I think if we start to see a lack of continuation into Lapeer County, I think if we see a lack of continuation into Tuscola, we will still be here for you. But it would be starting to see more of these storms stay under severe limits. I did get a report just now from Facebook. This is from Deej. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Deej Johnson. It looks like we've got a report in the 1,000 block of Bishop. It seems like, at least on one of our neighborhood watch pages, a tornado possibly struck a house, and Albee is responding. So that's the area that we were looking for. They did just send me another one. Looks like Bishop Road.
Which was where we did see that flare up on the debris tracker.
Okay, so that is what we are going to do. I think with our news team in the morning, is I think what we'll do is we'll highlight that area for them, see if we can get some more information for wake up in that area, and get some resources down there to find out what exactly happened. Stone, you did say there were some power outages.
Yeah, there were some power outages starting to pop up in that area. It's only one small area though, but most likely I can't zoom in on the road, or I can't see the road once I zoom in, but it's pretty close to that area.
Yeah, we're trying to see there if it does align with that Bishop Road, but also not that the folks in Gratiot County, of course, we will be addressing those areas as well. You can already see consumers as their crews there. And I know that we have power outages and debris.
That is actually west of Bishop Road, so that would maybe be a signal that, you know, maybe we did see something touched on there as it moved towards Bishop Road, and that's why we had those power outages.
So just know that we are going to be sending crews out to some of these spots, what we have available on staffing. I do also want to update folks into Saginaw County that you are no longer under a severe thunderstorm warning. So that has been cleared. So currently we only have the southern half of Shiawassee County along M21 and south. And then we will find that the majority of Genesee County is still in that severe thunderstorm warning as well. If you're in Flushing, you're just kind of borderline. So just hold on here a little bit longer. Same for Clio, but Mount Morris, Otisville, Flint, Davison, Grand Blanc, Schwartz Creek, Fenton, Argentine. We still have that severe thunderstorm warning, so that's where we do still have the conditions of strong winds and a little rotation potentially.
One thing, if one of you could do so when you have time, is just while we have a moment where we don't have any tornado warnings, Diane, in the pallet section, if you could find, I'll see if I can help you out with it, just because it's my workspace and not yours. You're more organized than I am. Let's see if we've got maybe some of the estimated rainfall totals here. And let's just go the last 12 hours, and let's see if we can zoom out a little bit and just see what we've got. Because we did get a report, and keep in mind, these are radar estimates, so they are not perfect. But we'll try to give you a view here, because we did get a report of somebody saying in Saginaw Township, so right about here, is they reported some flooding in their basement. which doesn't necessarily, some people have, it's hard to know without the context of how often that person's basement floods. And it could just be flooding because we've been so waterlogged. But it does speak to the heavy rain potential that we have had. We also have what appears to be some radar estimates of about 2 to 4 inches over in Gratiot County. Now, Stone, you were on top of that flood advisory, or the flood warning. You were looking into that for us. Did they have any estimated rainfall in those reports, or the warning or advisories saying how much had fallen?
It does, between 1 to 2 inches have fallen.
Okay, so maybe those totals are a little bit less than some of the radar estimates, but either way, what that does is it shows a pretty strong signal there that we've gotten some heavy rain, which of course is no surprise. That was one thing we talked about. We've got a flood watch not only for the entire TV5 viewing area, we have a flood watch for the entire state of Michigan. And so all of these areas are certainly prone to some of that basement flooding. So we'll see what comes of that in the morning too. We hope it's a quick cleanup. We know how frustrating this stretch of weather is. And it does appear, so we've got the flood warning for Gratiot. The flood advisory is for Saginaw.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, First Alert meteorologist Matthew Mondro, he just was able to get here to the station, and he said that he incurred here in the city a lot of roadways that did have water across them. So there is some flash flooding in the city of Saginaw. So, and of course, in the dark, it is hard to see when you hit that water and what is also, of course, in the water. So make sure that you're slowing down if you are traveling here during the night, because it's very difficult to see if you are coming across a flooded roadway. And we've seen a lot of water, again, that's through Gratiot County and even through a large majority of Saginaw County, where we do have those flood advisories. So we will be seeing, after we have mainly the severe weather component done, we will be switching back into flood coverage, because we've already been seeing a lot of our rivers that were already climbing, and then those are going to continue to climb here even through the next couple of days.
So yeah, for that Gratiot County flood warning, 2 inches have fallen, and another 1 to 2 is expected.
Okay, so we're not completely done with the rain just yet. Don't be surprised if some of that rain lingers a little bit longer. But as far as the severe weather threat, correct me if I'm wrong, Gratiot County has been trimmed out, right? Of the severe, or of the tornado watch?
Yes, Gratiot County is no longer the tornado
That's what
watch.
I thought. Wanted to make sure I was thorough with that.
Not that we have anything that's rotating, but I'm just seeing a strong burst of winds here coming in closer towards Grand Blanc. So we are, I'm not seeing, again, nothing that's really rotating. There's potentially a couple of notches. Just that's why they have left this severe thunderstorm warning throughout much of the county. But we are seeing some strong winds, this kind of pocket of pink that we have. So that's going to be a pretty strong push of winds there along 75. And so that's going to continue to head through. We're seeing plenty of lightning, and we even, it looks like, have that emergency vehicle there on the eastern side there.
I was just going to point that out too. That's either an emergency vehicle or somebody who's maybe running into a hazard there.
He was parked there earlier.
Okay.
When we went to that cam probably 10 minutes ago. But obviously that's an area that we have had flood issues before.
Yes.
So if you are going to be driving over there, just be careful for that flooded areas. And like we said, there are flood reports across Saginaw now. I've had a viewer in the area tell me their basement's starting to flood here in Saginaw. So just obviously, if you're someone that has to deal with that, maybe check on that if you haven't, because we're just going to continue to see rainfall.
So we do have meteorologist Matthew Mondro in the studio now. He came in a little bit earlier. Once we sign off, he'll be able to carry you through Wake Up. Matthew, you drove in Saginaw. Anything you noticed on your way in? Standing water, anything like that, or pretty standard stuff?
Several areas that had a lot of standing water, actually. So my drive in here, if you're familiar with the city of Saginaw, Bay Road or Bay Street, and then State Street, there were several areas where the water was completely over the road. It seemed like it was several inches deep as well. And even right here in front of the Dow at Johnson and Franklin, that whole intersection basically has standing water at it too. So definitely seemed more than normal. So very heavy rain, and just at the moment that I came in here too. I mean, it was torrential rain, some of the heaviest I've seen in a long
Well, even if you take a look at this Saginaw live camera right now, now you can see the event park, and if you look closely behind that, you can see our station. It was raining so hard at one point that we lacked visibility behind the event park. So I can believe that. We've also had the flood watch is in place. We've had the flood advisory now issued. We've gotten several reports of people reporting water in their basement. And some of the estimated rainfall totals here, clearly over 2 inches. One report that I just got on Facebook was indicating that someone estimated there was about 2 inches of water in their basement. Never like to hear that. Just a quick summary again, as we have gone throughout tonight, we have had, gosh, I would say probably somewhere between 5 and 10 tornado warnings, probably closer to 5, but just to be broad. But we only feel as if there was maybe one that could be confirmed locally near the Albee area, just based on a radar signature. We're not ready to guarantee that confirmation just yet, but we think that is an area of interest. And thank you, Diane, posting that. Go ahead and take that away.
Yeah, so actually just coming in, all of our phones are going off. So good news is, and Chris had already given us kind of the all clear for Midland County, but finally being removed, we have Saginaw, Bay, and Midland counties that are being removed from the tornado watch. So if you are in any of those 3 counties, you are in the clear to go to bed. It's 12:30. I know it's late. We're happy that you were able to kind of ride out the storms with your first alert weather team. But if you are still in Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, Tuscola, Huron, or Sanilac counties, we do still have these storms that are rolling through. I'll bring up our current warnings here. And actually the Shiawassee warning did just get canceled. So the only warning that we still have left here is in Genesee County. What I've been watching here with this line, and as I had mentioned before, that we still have the wind component that has been still kind of flaring up. The notches have not been nearly as strong with this, so we are seeing that it's more kind of a wind threat rather than a tornado threat, and that's why we are seeing that that warning is still active, but it is going to be covering for mainly wind. We haven't also had too many reports of hail. I do also, because we've had those tornado warnings throughout Saginaw County, we don't have any warnings for the thumb. So we had mentioned here that we didn't have a ton of energy, and we still don't have a ton of energy. So thankfully, kind of sticking with our alignment here is that we don't have any warnings throughout the thumb. So I know a lot of folks are trying to get some sleep here. So if you are in Shiawassee County, it's very close. If you're north of I-69, we will say that you can head off to bed tonight here. And almost the same can be said here in Genesee County as well, because it's just kind of this last push that's coming through Grand Blanc and Fenton that we still want to monitor. But if you're in Swartz Creek, you're looking to be in good shape. Now, you still will have some heavy rainfall and then even the thunderstorms that might keep you awake. But this is kind of this last push in line that we're watching.
And just
Go
as
ahead,
heads
Stone.
up, that tornado watch has now been canceled for Midland, Bay, and Saginaw counties.
Okay, so that is a development. You were talking to Matthew, so we've got double confirmation on that. I would say, Diane and Stone, Matthew is going to go out to the office and he is going to compile what he can and start working on Wake Up here. The fact that we don't have this warning that is in place for Genesee County, and it seems like the worst of it is starting to go away from Genesee County. It has been extended off to the south of Genesee County. It has not been extended into Lapeer. I think that's noteworthy. And so the fact that we are not seeing that warning extended into Lapeer, the fact that we are not seeing that warning extended into Tuscola, Sanilac, or Huron, I think this is probably a good place where we could get you back to coverage at this point, or this is a place where we can give you at least a chance to get to bed. I would say if you're still seeing some of these storms in this area here, or if you're in the thumb, I would keep alerts handy just in case. You can do that with the TV5 weather app. Matthew and our morning director will be here. We're going to stick around for at least a little while longer just to see, or at least I am, to help Matthew with what he needs. But I think this is a good place where we can kind of recap everything. Again, just to summarize, We have had a lot of tornado warnings, but I would say out of all of those tornado warnings, it seems like only one in our area in Albee is an area that we're going to have to check out tomorrow that we know of right now. We've had some areas of concerning rotation, especially western Saginaw County. So if you have any damage reports in this area around St. Charles or to the west, that was an area where we had at least some decent circulations for a little bit. I would say these areas, watch a little bit closely once daylight happens, see what you notice just in case. But overall, I think what we have seen tonight is mostly what we expected as far as not widespread tornadoes, at least being touched down. We've had a few storms that have rotated because of just the environment that we've had, but I think more areas probably got stronger wind gusts and heavy rain tonight. And occasionally we did have some hailstones with the warnings. Diane was streaming through our 10 o'clock newscast, a few warnings with 1.25 or 1.5 inches hail. So we've probably had some of that throughout the night. But right now, our focus is going to be on just recapping this event. Please send us any reports, and we will let you get back to regularly scheduled programming for now. And of course, if we need to come back, we will.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.